All right, guys, welcome to Press X Podcast. Thank you guys for being here. I want to thank everybody for waiting patiently. We have, in my opinion, a pretty jam-packed show. I think that we have a lot of topics to go over and talk about. Obviously, there is a lot going on in the world right now, and so first and foremost, I just want to not only thank everybody for being here, but hope that everybody is staying safe, taking care of each other, keeping yourselves healthy, and just trying to do the best you can, because honestly, that's, in my opinion, all we really can do. So I genuinely, sincerely mean I hope everybody is doing okay out there. But my hope with this podcast today is to have some fun and interesting and maybe some heated discussion about some big things that are about to go down in the gaming world and in the gaming industry. And I know that a lot of you are feeling just as excited as I am right now. And so, yeah, obviously a huge part of this conversation is going to be revolving around the big PlayStation 5 event that's coming up. There is a lot to unpack there, but there's actually a lot that's coming out day over day, and it's just, I'm just going to be real with you guys, it's hard to keep up with everything, because now that we are actually getting this close to the reveal of the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 games, there's just seemingly new stuff coming out literally on a daily basis. So there may be some stuff in here that's missing, but the good news is we still have almost the entire week ahead of us where I can cover this stuff in separate videos. But to give you a basic rundown of the stuff that we are going to be talking about and discussing today, the first topic is obviously about the PlayStation 5 event. And we're going to be talking about, how big this event is going to be, how Sony has made it very clear that this is going to be a massive event. It's going to be over an hour long, and there is just a lot of very exciting stuff that's going to be going down at this event that PlayStation fans can, in fact, feel very excited for and look forward to. We're talking more about Jim Ryan's comments, how it seems that he has made it crystal clear that Sony has no intention of doing cross-gen PlayStation 5 exclusives. They will be PlayStation 5 only, and they want to do this to give something special to PlayStation 5 fans and PlayStation 5 owners, which I'm obviously very much in agreement with. But interestingly enough, we're going to be talking about a former Xbox executive, Mike Ybarra, and his thoughts on this. He was actually asked how he feels about Sony's approach here, and it turns out that he has some very interesting things to say. So we're talking a little bit about that. We're also talking about backwards compatibility with the PlayStation 5. This is a topic that has seemingly kind of been heating up recently, not only due to an excess of rumors starting to come out, but also there are some people who are trying to create a narrative that PlayStation 5's backwards compatibility is going to be a mess and it's not going to work properly and all this stuff, and I'm just not really feeling that. So we're going to discuss that as well. We're going to talk a little bit about The Last of Us 2. There has been some new information coming out about that game, and we're obviously going to discuss a little bit about the whole thing that's been going on. Not leak-wise, obviously. We're not going into that, but we're talking about the state of play and how people feel about this gameplay. And then finally, we are finishing up with some random game news. So I know that this was a pretty long intro, but as usual, I just want to give you guys the rundown of what we can expect. So before we move on to the first topic here, if you guys could do me a huge favor, hit the like button to help the podcast out and show your support. It is the easiest way for you to interact with this and propel it, because that's just how YouTube's algorithm works. So welcome everybody who's just joining. Let me actually switch this up here so we can get some gameplay in the background. You'll probably see starting off here with The Last of Us gameplay, and yeah, there's just going to be some stuff going on. I have to move that. One sec here. There we go. All right. So, getting into it. Topic number 1. Okay. Sony has officially announced a PlayStation 5 game showcase, and it will be happening on Thursday, June 4th, and it's confirmed that it will be over an hour long. In their blog post, they put a lot of emphasis on this event being about launch games and showing the future of gaming. There have, by this point, been many reports that Sony's plan is to wow gamers by showing them games running on final PlayStation 5 hardware, and was sure to take notes on Microsoft's, quote, next-gen gameplay, unquote, showcase, and is well aware by this point what gamers expect to see. On top of that, we have seen even more info that reveals or we actually have more info that Sony has canceled a few reveals and multiple shows that were planned earlier this year because they refused to do an at-home quality for their big PS5 event and decided to wait until they could actually produce a show that would be considered very high quality and very big. And this is extremely exciting to fans, and it gives us, in my opinion, a pretty good idea of what we can realistically expect at this event. And so, yeah, there's a lot of interesting things to unpack here. Obviously, just the general excitement for June 4th is through the roof. People are very, very excited for this. Obviously, I am. I know all of you are as well. And I do think that it's going to be a very big show. The big question that a lot of people seemingly have is, well, what about the console? Can we expect to see the console here? I think we can. The reason why I say this is because there's apparently a leak that actually came out today. I don't have it in front of me. Well, actually, let me see if I can bring it up here, because I do think you guys are going to find this one interesting. We talked a little bit about how Sony is probably going to want to show the console off because at this point, mass manufacturing has begun, and the chances of it leaking out are very, very, very high. And because of this, Sony's probably going to want to get out in front and make sure that they can actually just reveal it officially before it's revealed through a leak. And apparently it says here, popular Russian industry website Game Mag claims to have information from a source currently working on a next gen title for PlayStation 5. And apparently the PlayStation 5 looks nothing like the Xbox Series X, which is pretty interesting. And this is basically the notes that were given about the PlayStation 5's design. It says the PlayStation 5's final design doesn't look anything like the leaked images that we've seen before of the dev kits. We kind of already suspected that. PS5, and I find this interesting. Apparently the PS5 has one very unique detail that nobody has talked about because Sony is able to apparently very easily track down anybody who leaks this detail or feature, whatever it may be. And I find that very interesting. I have no idea what that could be. Sony didn't unveil all of the secrets of the PS5. They should announce at least one software feature, I guess, that hasn't been revealed yet. It was briefly talked about in Western press, but nobody seems to have picked up on it. So, again, I have no idea what that exactly could be. So here it says, design-wise, the PS5 looks nothing like the Xbox Series X, and nor does it look like a smart speaker. It's a traditional console. It is flat. It is square. It's a symmetrical box, and it has rounded edges. But at the same time, it is very fat. It's almost twice as thick as the PS4 Pro. Now, obviously, we have to take this with a massive grain of salt because we have no idea whether or not this could be true or not. This could just be an outlet looking to get a lot of attention because they know that right now, everything surrounding the PlayStation and PlayStation 5, it's just getting a lot of attention. So I find this believable simply because it makes a lot of sense in my opinion. It makes a lot of sense that Sony is going to go for a more traditional console. That's just what they've been known to do. We also kind of got a pretty good understanding based off of a patent that was made public that Sony's cooling solution is so unique and so cutting edge, right? So state of the art that it's going to allow them to keep this console cool from the top and the bottom. And because of that, we can actually expect, I don't know if a smaller console is the way to say it, because as this is saying here, apparently it's going to be twice as thick as the PS4 Pro. So we can expect a thick console. But they're saying that it's still going to look like a traditional console. It's not going to be like a tower, right? And this is one of the biggest, I don't want to say biggest problems. It's not like a problem, but when I first saw the Xbox Series X, for as shocked as I was to just see it revealed the way it was revealed, I was not a big fan of the overall look of the console, the design of it. I thought it did just look kind of silly, and it reminded me of a PC tower. And I guess in that way, it kind of had this familiar look to it. And I also think that it's going to be not so practical for a lot of people to actually stand that console upright just because of the shape of it. But either way, I am anticipating that we are going to see this console revealed at the June 4th event. I think we'll just see it, and that's about it. I don't know if they could go in depth with more features. They are saying here that apparently they are... David, you're saying, do you like them thick, MBG? Well, if you're talking about consoles, I'll just put it this way. I don't mind how thick they are as long as they're, getting the job done, I guess we could say, when it comes to consoles. So, a little bit distracting there, but yeah, I find it very interesting that they're emphasizing that apparently Sony has some kind of feature, some kind of something that they haven't revealed yet, but they have alluded to, I'm assuming in Wired articles or something like that nobody really caught on to. I have absolutely no idea what this could be. So maybe the chat, you guys can actually let me know what you think about that. I guess I'll ask you guys, how do you feel about the idea of Sony having a thicker console, potentially twice the thickness of the PS4 Pro, so that way they could keep it a traditional console design and not have to go for the tower? It's going to look apparently the exact opposite of what Microsoft is going for here. Do you prefer that, or would you have actually preferred Sony to kind of go with Microsoft's lead on this one and go for more of a tower-like look? Me personally, I obviously prefer the traditional console look. I mean, if it's going to be thick, no big deal. If that is going to ensure that it's not going to be as loud as a jet engine when I'm playing, then I'm all for that. I'm happy about that. But there you go. That's something I may actually make a separate video on by itself, because again, I know not everybody catches the podcast and not everybody is able to keep up with everything regarding the podcast. So we will probably make a separate video talking about that. And who knows, maybe by the time we get around to doing that, the actual console itself will leak out. I think Sony would be very upset if that happened. Chris B, you're saying, so George Foreman style, as in OG PS3. It potentially, yeah, the original PlayStation 3 was also a very thick console. It's hard to say if this would be as thick as that. I think it's going to look very different from the PS3, but in terms of thickness, yeah, we could see a similar situation there, which again, I'm totally okay with that. If I had to choose between having a thicker but more traditional looking console, I'm going to choose that over having a tower. I just don't like the idea of having a tower in my entertainment center. I don't like it. Not that I have a big problem with the way the Xbox Series X looks. It is growing on me a little bit, but still just not my preference. Billy Too Smooth, you're saying, MBG, list your most anticipated PS5 games you hope get shown. Mine are God of War 2, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, Gran Turismo 7, Demon's Souls, and so many others. Yeah, I can't do a whole list, Billy Too Smooth, but to kind of go piggyback off of what you're saying here, I would say that obviously I would hope to see God of War 2. Don't know if we're going to, though. Horizon 2, I think that's guaranteed. That is easily one of my most anticipated. I'm very interested to see Demon's Souls. Demon's Souls is right up there. Gran Turismo. I'm interested in seeing if we're actually going to see a new Crash Bandicoot game. But my number one, I don't know if I can call it my number one, but one that you didn't mention in this list is Silent Hill. I want to see Silent Hill. And just thinking of another one off the top of my head, I would love to see a tease for the next Spider-Man game. I would also like to see, here's one that we haven't really talked about much. I would love to see this new IP, apparently, or potentially a continuation of Uncharted, whatever this game is, that Sony San Diego, they have a secret team that's working on some type of big AAA project. I would like to see that. It could be a new IP, so who knows? Hopefully that gives you a good idea of what I'm expecting to see and what I'm hopeful for. We have MH, you're saying, if it keeps it cool, I don't know what that sound was, but if it keeps it cool, then I'm cool with it. I do want it to look like a console, not a PC. Yeah, I 100% agree with that, MH. I think that the most important thing is not the look, but the functionality. Like, obviously, functionality over form factor, in my opinion. I think that it's imperative that Sony makes the console regardless of how it looks, something that does remain cool. And this is something that Mark Cerny did admit in his deep dive talk, where he said that they haven't done the best job of that, obviously alluding to the PlayStation 4 Pro, and they plan to have completely rectified that situation with the PS5, and that's why they're so pumped to show off the form factor and I think the cooling solution. So yeah, I'm very excited for that. I 100% agree with you there, buddy. We have iSiler18. You're saying we can all probably expect the console to look weird. Let's be honest, LOL. Also, there's a lot of lewdness in your explanations today. Lewdness. I should know what that word means. I don't know what that means, but let me know so I can understand what you're trying to say there. I feel stupid right now because I feel like I should know what that means, but I don't know. Like, to be honest, dude, I don't know if we can expect a console that is going to look silly, right? Like, I don't know if that's something that we can for sure anticipate. But let me see here. Lewdness. Use lewdness in a sentence. Noun. The definition of lewdness is the quality of being very sexual or lustful in an offensive way. Okay. All right. I apologize if I'm offending anybody, but I did not know that's what that meant. But hey, you learn something new every day, and I guess we can say that today I certainly learned something new. So I apologize if that's how this is coming off. I'm certainly not trying to make it come off that way. But hey, we are talking about the thickness of upcoming consoles, so there's bound to be some jokes that are made. Kelvin Smith, you're saying if Sega made a new console, I'd buy it. Yeah, that is something we will be talking about later on in this podcast. Apparently Sega is teasing some type of massive announcement on the same day or the day before that Sony's having their event, so that is very interesting. But just talking about the form factor, first of all, do I think we are actually going to see this console revealed at this event? I do. I just think the time has come for Sony to reveal it. I don't know why they would wait at this point, considering it's safe to say mass manufacturing has either already begun or it's just about to begin. So I just don't see any reason why they would hold that back. To be honest, I think if they held it back, I don't want to say there would be backlash, because the truth is, guys, like, we're more excited to see the games than anything else. But there's no doubt that some people will be left scratching their heads saying, but why didn't they show the console? You know, and so I think it's going to happen. I wouldn't be shocked if it didn't happen, though. I guess the final thing I'll say about that is, again, to me, it's all about functionality over form factor. I don't care what the console looks like. Obviously, I would prefer it to look cool, look sleek, look like it's going to look awesome in my entertainment center, but as long as it gets the job done and it does exactly what it's supposed to do, and it doesn't sound like a jet engine, right, then I'm going to be happy. So I wanted to give you guys that there, but we also have to acknowledge something else here when it comes to this upcoming PS5 event, something that I honestly haven't seen many people talking about. I did reference it in one of my videos earlier this week, but how apparently there are reports that are coming out saying that Sony has apparently taken a lot of notes from Microsoft's, quote, next-gen games showcase, unquote, and those notes are basically like, okay, here are the things we're not going to do, or we're going to write down the things that Microsoft is doing right now and try to do the exact opposite of those things. And one of the things, in my opinion, or a few things that have been made very obvious that I think we realistically can for sure expect at this event is, first of all, it's going to be a big event. It's going to be an exciting one. This isn't going to be like an at-home presentation. I think that Sony basically confirmed this themselves. They're essentially saying that we don't want to follow Microsoft's lead on this one and do like an at-home presentation where we have people sitting at their desks at home with microphones on or headsets on. We want it to be as professional and as showy as it possibly can be, while still respecting the fact that we are in a global pandemic. And again, I think this is why they waited, and we've been hearing that they canceled events, and I'm very happy about this. I think that we need a big showcase. I think that I don't want to say it's Sony's responsibility, but it kind of is, right? Like, we need them as big of a force as they are in the gaming industry. We need to see somebody step up and do something big at a time like this to get gamers excited, to, grab our attention. And considering how important the PlayStation 5 launch is to Sony as a company in general, to the PlayStation brand, I think that it's time for them to really do something big here, and it sounds like all signs are saying that they are going to do something big. And honestly, I am really, really glad that they took notes from Xbox's show, and this is the risk that Microsoft took by deciding we're going to go out first, we're going to go out ahead. I know that in a way it looks good for them because it's like, oh, look at how aggressive they are, but on the other side of that coin, this is what can happen when you are kind of off the mark and you decide to go first. You kind of just ruin it for yourself, and you allow your competition to sit back, take notes, and one-up you in a very big way. And I think that's what's about to happen here. And so I assume this event is going to go very well for Sony. I think that there's going to be a lot of games shown. Again, we do have to pay attention to the fact that Sony did confirm 100%. This is coming from Sony officially. This event will be over an hour long, and it will be focusing on the games showcase. And so because of that, I think it's safe to say that you can expect a hell of a lot of games to be shown off. I think they're going to be both big, both small. I think there's going to be some big surprises. I think a lot of them will be exclusive. I think that some of them will be cross-gen, multi-platform games, third-party games. But I think that regardless, there's going to be a little something for everybody there. Now, a big question that I think a lot of people have when it comes to this event is how realistic is it for us to anticipate that we are going to see the next God of War revealed in full, the next Spider-Man revealed in full, the next Horizon. And I do have a plan to make a video addressing all of this, but just to let you know right up front, I would expect for sure to see something from Guerrilla Games. I would expect at the very bare minimum to see a tease of Horizon 2, but I also don't think it's unrealistic to expect maybe a bigger showcase of Horizon Zero Dawn 2 or Horizon 2, whatever it's going to be called, because I think the time has come for Guerrilla Games to really show the whole thing here. And there's no doubt that Sony is going to want to have at least one big game that's going to stand above the rest. Like one game that's going to be the game that everybody's left talking about once this show ends. And I think that there's going to be a lot of games that people are talking about. I think that people are going to be talking for weeks about this event. But I do think that Horizon 2 has the potential to be that game that just like wows everybody and just blows them away and like gets people. It brings a feeling of, okay, this is what the PlayStation 5 is going to offer, right? We could also see that with Gran Turismo when it comes to the graphical fidelity. But when it comes to, let's say, the next God of War, that seems a little bit more unlikely to me. However, I do not think it's unrealistic to expect a possible small tease, right? I think Sony wants to give fans a really good, robust lineup and just a confident feeling of the launch lineup so that, yeah, there's going to be a lot there day one and within the coming months. But I think they also want to try to tease out some of the stuff that's further down the pipeline so that way, if not everything you see as launch titles or within the first, launch window within that first year, if that doesn't entice you enough, then you can feel, excited enough to know that, oh, but they did tease out the next God of War. Oh, they did tease out the next Spider-Man. And even though they may be like 2 or 3 years away or new IP, right? Like we know that that's coming. So I think it's going to be a healthy, and I could be off the mark on this one. For all I know, maybe Sony has every intention of just purely focusing on the games that are coming out within the first year. And I don't think the next God of War is going to come out within the first year. So if that's the case, maybe we should not expect it. Same thing with the next Spider-Man. Same thing with the sequel to Days Gone or potentially new IPs that are, a year, 2, 3 years away. But either way, guys, I think it's going to be an extremely exciting show. It just gives me a hell of a lot of confidence as a fan in feeling very excited and without the potential of being let down when it's become very clear that Sony's going all in with this event. And this event is going to be when PlayStation 5's marketing officially kicks off. I've been talking about this for a little while now. And one of the things that I've been trying to let people know is that Sony's marketing for the next generation hasn't officially kicked off yet. It hasn't gone into full swing, and I think it's safe to say that once this event starts, once that countdown reaches 0, that's when it goes into full swing, and it's going to be nonstop from that point forward all the way up until launch, and obviously years after that. So let me take a little drink here, see what you guys are saying in the chat. I got my tea with me here today to hopefully help my voice out. Hopefully I don't, end up blowing out my freaking vocal cords for some reason, like I do almost every single show. I might talk a little bit quieter, which might result in me sounding a little bit more unenthusiastic, but hopefully you guys understand. But right now we have over 1,500 people watching, so if you could do me a big favor, hit that like button to show your support for the podcast and to help the podcast out. Hitting the like button really does help more than you know. And so I have something else I want to say here. Is it safe to assume, and I'm going to ask the chat this, is it safe to assume that this showcase will be big, and because it will be over an hour long, we can actually expect a lot of games to be shown off? Let me know in the chat. We have PS5 hype, appropriate name. You're saying, what's up? I'm so hyped for this event. It's all about the games. Let's effing go. 100% agree, man. At a time like this, I'm not encouraging people stay ignorant to everything that's going on around the world. Obviously, we don't want to do that. However, I do think many of us at times feel very stressed, feel a lot of anxiety, and a lot of us are just gamers. We're very passionate about gaming. And maybe this sounds a little bit dramatic, but right now this PlayStation 5 event seems like some kind of beacon of light to me, where it's like, there's just so much going on, and I want to, I want to be immersed in the world of gaming and be excited and just try to have those positive feelings. And I just think that right now this show that's going to happen with Sony it just feels like a beacon of light right now, and it's something that I'm focused on and I'm very much looking forward to, and it definitely makes me feel a lot better. I guess I'll just put it that way. We have Ohai Akarumi. Once again, you're saying, did you notice the girl that was playing the PlayStation Vita in the game in The Last of Us Part 2? And hi. Well, hello. And yes, I did notice that. I thought that was a really awesome little cameo they did there, a little Easter egg, I guess you could say. And it's funny because a lot of people were making jokes that, that's the last Vita owner ever, right? And it's crazy. I mean, I don't know if that's Sony trying to hint at something. I've seen some people maybe go at that where they're trying to hint at another handheld. I think that's extremely unlikely. I think it was just Naughty Dog's kind of homage to a beloved piece of hardware that there's still a massive fan base for, that still feels very passionately about it. And I did think that was pretty cool. And we have Alpha Rex. You're saying nice thickness there, MBG. Yeah, we're going to I don't know, guys. I don't know if this is going to be the running joke with the PlayStation 5, if this report is true, is it's the thick console with 2 C's, right? Like, I could certainly see that being a thing. But hey, that in my opinion, that's certainly better than being compared to like a refrigerator. I mean, even Microsoft poked fun at themselves with that one, which I do admit was pretty funny during their event. But, being compared to a smart speaker or something like that, or a mini fridge, yeah, I definitely take the thick with 2 C's console there, right? So, but yeah, that's the question I posed to you guys, and I also have one other question here that I wrote down for the chat. Is it also safe to say that this showcase will essentially be the opposite of what Xbox's first, quote, next-gen gameplay, unquote, showcase was? Obviously, I think it's safe to say that, yes, it's going to be the exact opposite of that. But I'm very much interested to hear what you guys have to say about that. So we're going to move on to the next topic. Be sure to hit that like button to show your support for the podcast. And the next topic is also a very interesting one, and I think you guys are going to have a lot to say about this. Jim Ryan confirms that the PlayStation 5 exclusive games will be truly exclusive to the PlayStation 5, not cross-generation with the PS4. He says it's time to give fans something that can only be enjoyed on PlayStation 5, and that they also plan to take full advantage of the PS5's feature set and hardware, including the SSD, which we know has the potential to fundamentally change some aspects of game design for any game that is developed for the PS5 and PS5 alone. We even have former Xbox executive Mike Ybarra chiming in saying, actually there was a Twitter post where he was asked by somebody like what he thoughts, and this was what the Twitter question, the question that was posted to him on Twitter. I'm mixing up my words here. Jim Ryan also states that PlayStation is not interested in bringing new PS5 games over to PS4. It's time, quote, it's time to give fans something that can only be enjoyed on PlayStation 5, unquote. What do you think? So this is the question that was posed to Mike Ybarra. What do you think? And so this is what Mike Ybarra responded with. He said, I like it. I like having something that is the absolute latest tech and shows off my investment in the best possible way. It also reduces development time when developers can focus on absolute optimization on one hardware system. But at the same time, it comes at the cost of a smaller install base. And I don't think we can deny that. Of course, that is the only major trade-off, is that, well, you are developing this game exclusively for this new console. You're going to be selling it to a smaller install base. However, this is the game that's going to be used to sell the console, to grow that install base. And not only that, but we do know that console launch exclusives always sell very well. We have Justin B. You're saying PS5 teardown and deep dive into its features following the Xbox July showcase to kill their hype. I'm calling it. Sony is going back to back this generation. Yeah, dude, that's a pretty good prediction. I think that Sony has made it very clear that they are not resting on their laurels here, contrary to what some people have tried to convince others of. I think it's very clear that Sony has just been waiting, lurking in the shadows for the right time to strike. And when they do strike, as I've said before, they're going to make sure that their strikes land. And when they hit, they're going to hit hard. That's the important thing. Like, they're not just going to be some little jab to the face just to, leave the opponent stunned for just a couple seconds. Like, no, they're going for the haymaker blows here when they see those openings. And I 100% agree. I could see them doing something like that for sure. But I do find what Mike Ybarra is saying here very interesting. It is certainly worth noting that he is a former high up there Xbox executive. In fact, he's, I think, pretty much one of the people that is responsible for everything inside of the Xbox Series X and everything that went into it. And so you just got to find it very interesting that the things he's saying here, I'm assuming he's a developer, and if he's not a developer, he certainly has a very good understanding, better than most people, what developers go through, what they like, what they look for, what they are happy about, what they're not happy about. And he's saying that not only does it reduce development time, which is a fantastic thing for everybody, right? But it makes it so that they can just focus on optimizing for that hardware and that hardware alone. And not only is this going to result in getting games faster, not rushed, but just it makes it so that it's easier for them to develop these games in a smoother process, in a smoother way. But because they're going to be able to just focus on the PlayStation 5's hardware, specifically that PS5 SSD, as I've continued to say, they're going to be able to achieve things that are not possible in other consoles. Now, am I expecting to see that day one with the PS5? Not necessarily. Realistically speaking, it's probably going to take at least a couple years to really see the mind-blowing stuff. But I could be wrong. At the very least, we know that what we see day one on the PlayStation 5 is going to be something that is doing its best to take full advantage of the hardware that's on offer, and there will be absolutely no compromises. And to me, as a gamer, as a PlayStation fan, that's exactly what I want to hear. iSiler18, you're saying, I have no problems with this. Imagine trying to downscale Horizon and The Last of Us 2 for PlayStation 3. No issue with trying to get people to buy a brand new console. Yeah, dude, I 100% agree with you on this one. I have absolutely no problem with this. I find this particularly interesting because I've been seeing a certain subsection of gamers trying to push back against this, right? They're trying to make it seem as though Sony is being, and this is the number one thing I've seen thrown around, which I 100% do not agree with, Sony is being anti-consumer by doing this. Now, to me, this is an absolutely ridiculous claim because there's nothing anti-consumer about this. I mean, there are those individuals who believe that exclusives by themselves are anti-consumer, but when you look at what Sony's doing with the PlayStation 5 hardware, they're going to be offering something at a tangible price point that is leagues ahead of most other stuff that's on the market, and it's gonna offer things to developers that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do. And what I mean by that is if you choose to make a PlayStation 5 exclusive, you can potentially do things on this console that are literally, and I know that people think I'm exaggerating when I say this, and I'm not, you could potentially, literally achieve things on the PlayStation 5 console that are not, as of right now, possible on any other platform, including PC and the Xbox Series X. And so this is why I'm 100% behind the idea of, yes, Sony, not only is this how they've always traditionally done things, and it's worked out, I'd say, pretty well for them, same for Nintendo, It's nothing new here. It shouldn't be a surprise. But the last thing this is, in my opinion, is anti-consumer. If anything, this is pro-consumer. This is pro-consumer for the consumer who's going to go out there and buy the PlayStation 5 and spend $500 on this console. And it's going to make them feel like they're getting the most for their money. It's going to be a nice feeling when you pop in, say Horizon 2, that there's no compromises here. Sony is not making any significant compromises. The developers weren't forced to make any compromises to make sure the game can run on a console that came out in 2013. This is a game built from the ground up for the PlayStation 5 console for 2020's cutting-edge tech that will be inside this console. That's, in my opinion, that's the opposite of anti-consumer. We have Justin B. Once again, you're saying the PlayStation 4 sold 110 million and is the market leader without any form of system backwards compatibility. It's cool to have it, but it isn't essential. And we are going to talk more about that when we move on to the next topic. Right now, we're focusing on the exclusives and the idea of not having cross-gen exclusive games. So look forward to what we're going to talk about in the next topic. But that is another thing that is certainly worth mentioning here, is that there seemingly are some people who get very confused about the idea of cross-generation games, like what are cross-generation exclusive games versus what are games that are backwards compatible, right? And the main difference is when you talk about cross-gen games, you're talking about a game that is developed for the latest piece of hardware, but has to be downscaled to function the same way or just as well on the older piece of hardware. To whereas backwards compatibility is essentially just taking your older games with you, like PS4 games, over to PlayStation 5 and playing them on your PlayStation 5 natively. That's the difference there. I know most of you already know that, but there are some people who are confused about that. Now, there's something else I do have to mention while talking about this topic, because it's something that has been thrown my way a lot here, honestly. Basically, what people are trying to tell me is that it's completely unrealistic and just false to believe that games we see at or around the launch, I'd say within the first year of the PS5, maybe the first year and a half, it's completely unrealistic to expect those games to take, quote, full, unquote, advantage of the PlayStation 5 hardware. And I half agree with this. I half agree with this because, yes, it is unrealistic to expect any developers who are working on PlayStation 5 games right now, even those who are Sony first-party studios or second-party relationships that are working on PS5 exclusives, it is completely unrealistic to expect their first outing to take absolute full advantage of the PlayStation 5 hardware. However, I only half agree with this because when you listen to what Mark Cerny has said about the PlayStation 5 hardware, their goal with it is they were not going for a wide design. Right? They're going for a more narrow design, a faster design, and one of the benefits of this is it's a lot easier for developers to very quickly get their games not only up and running on the PlayStation 5, but it leaves them a lot more leeway to mess around with it and optimize it and just push it and see what they can do now that they couldn't do before. And this is especially true for those developers who are only working on PlayStation 5 games. I can't stress that enough. And so, the PlayStation 5 may have less compute units, but in a way that is kind of a benefit, at least right now, because the benefit is, hey, we don't have to worry about whether or not we can utilize all 52 or 48 compute units, whatever, right? However many compute units the PS5 could have had. We just have to worry about these 36 compute units, and we could potentially take advantage of all of them very quickly. And then we also have the speed benefit, right? We also have the benefit of no bottlenecks. We also have the benefit of this SSD and it working pretty much hand in hand with the RAM, in a very efficient way. These are all things that, in my opinion, you can expect to see some surprising things with PS5 exclusives within the first year and a half. Are we going to see the full potential? No, that's going to come later. That's just how every console cycle works. But you're going to see things certainly out of the gate that are going to surprise you and impress you and wow you. And so I guess that's my only argument against these people, is they're trying to make it sound like we can't expect to be wowed. We have Oi Akarumi, once again, you're saying, did you hear about Sega and how they might make a comeback? Yes, I did hear about that, and as I said earlier, we will be touching on that and talking about that later on in this podcast when we go over the general news segment. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to take another sip here of my tea to ensure that my voice doesn't completely sound destroyed by the end of this podcast. I always feel so awkward doing that. I just feel like it's so weird. There's just this random dead air. But anyway, continuing on here with what we're talking about when it comes to the idea of Jim Ryan, I have to talk about this as well because this is something that we've seen talked about, honestly, quite a bit when it comes to the leadership with PlayStation. We know that apparently something internally happened with Sony and the leadership up top. There was some type of internal conflict, a tug of war, and apparently it was between Jim Ryan and Shawn Layden. And as we can see, Jim Ryan clearly won that tug of war as he has now moved up in the company. He's actually beyond being the He's actually beyond being like the PlayStation CEO. He's like really high up there within Sony now. Before I go on this tangent here, let me read what Dirty D is saying here. You're saying, if PS5 isn't fully backwards compatible with PS1, etc., could Sony make a little add-on mini console to play/emulate all older games? To be honest, I don't know. I know that if Sony really wanted to, they could, if they really wanted to, find a way to do full backwards compatibility, but it's a matter of resources. It's a matter of how practical, how tangible is this? And it's also a matter of, is it worth it? And these are questions that I simply don't have the answer to, unfortunately, because I don't work within Sony and I don't see all the numbers right in front of me. I can only assume that the decisions that Sony makes are the best for the business. I mean, you have to understand, any decision that Sony makes when it comes to the PlayStation 5 is to grow the business and do what's best for the business. And us as consumers, sometimes we can perceive that as anti-consumer, but it's not always the case. So I Don't Like You is saying, that's the name of this individual, is saying Xbox Series X is only allowing developers SMT on 5 cores. Yeah, I can't speak to that because I haven't looked into it, but we'll see about that. Either way, I do appreciate your super chat. I appreciate all your super chats. But talking about Jim Ryan here, obviously it was unfortunate to see Shawn Layden go, but all I will say is this, is I've been paying very close attention to the things that Jim Ryan has been saying in his interviews ever since he has, taken over this position. And they've been talking about the PS5 since early 2019 up until this point. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I fully support Jim Ryan. I know that he comes off as the not most likable guy in the world, and he seems a little bit dense sometimes, and he has made comments in the past that have upset some gamers, but I'm listening to what he's saying about their approach to next generation. I'm listening to what he has to say about the PlayStation brand and the PlayStation business in general, and their general philosophy, and I have to say that I am 100% on board, and he's frankly saying everything that I hope to hear. And just looking at what he's saying about, PlayStation 5 games, how he's saying that it's time to give fans something that can only be enjoyed on PlayStation 5, and making it very clear that, they're willing to be more flexible and look at other options for the future, such as what we see them doing with putting Horizon Zero Dawn onto PC, but simultaneously making it very clear that they're not jumping the gun here, they're not going all in, and we certainly should not expect day-and-date releases with PC or potentially even PlayStation Now. They're taking it slow and they're exploring and experimenting while also remaining true and sticking to their guns with what has worked for them throughout every single generation. And I just find that so critically important because, guys, we could have, Jim Ryan could be doing the exact opposite. I've seen a lot of people that were fearful that Jim Ryan was essentially going to be the next Phil Spencer, just a less, likable version, where he's going to do or implement all of the same things that Microsoft is doing for the Xbox platform onto PlayStation day one, right? And to me, I was a little bit nervous of that as well, because anytime you see leadership shakeups and things change at the top, it's going to have a ripple effect to everything else around it, and there could be some big changes. And I guess all I want to say is that I do believe Jim Ryan is the right guy. It's absolutely nothing against Shawn Layden. I think Shawn Layden has proven that he was a great he was great for the position, and he's done some amazing things for PlayStation. And obviously, the thing that's so strange to me about that whole situation is both Sean Layden and Jim Ryan have been at PlayStation, have been at Sony pretty much since the beginning, like since the inception or very close to the inception of PlayStation. Like they've been there since the PS1 days. And it's just so bizarre to me that one of them had to go. And what this tells me, and this is just me speculating, I have absolutely no idea if there's any truth to this, nor do I know if we'll ever learn the truth, but it seems to me that there was essentially an internal strife where there was a huge difference in how PlayStation should go forward into the next generation, into the next 5 to 10 years, and that difference stemmed from Jim Ryan and Sean Layden both being very high up there, both having having a lot of experience under PlayStation, but it just seems to me they both had very different ideas of how the PlayStation brand should evolve over the next 5 to 10 years. That's the only thing that makes sense in my head. And whatever Jim Ryan did, he seemingly convinced whoever makes the final say and has the final decision, convinced them that his way is the right way. Now, I have seen some people say that they still think they think that Jim Ryan is going to end up being like the Trojan horse where, he's just coming off right now, saying what PlayStation fans want to hear. And then once the PlayStation 5 generation starts, they're going to kickstart all of these things that we frankly don't want or are not too enthusiastic about that are going to essentially push away the core PlayStation audience. Now, I think that's a little bit conspiratorial. However, it's not out of the realm of possibility. But what I will say is that if there was ever a time where Sony could screw things up and make decisions that could push away their core audience, it's right now. And right now is the time where it's easiest for them to do that. And based off of everything I'm seeing, I'm not seeing that at all. And so we do have to remember, it was Sean Layden. He was the one who did go on record saying that we might have to start, leaning into other install bases such as PC when it comes to releasing some of our first-party games. Now, I don't have a huge problem with that, but I'm just saying, it wasn't Jim Ryan saying that, it was Sean Layden, and Sean Layden's no longer there. However, we are still seeing Horizon Zero Dawn getting ready to release on PC very soon. So I don't know what to make of this. All I know is that some stuff went down within Sony, and all I can do based off of my position, just being a gamer, somebody who runs a PlayStation-centric YouTube channel here, is just pay attention to the things that are being said. And, I'm not saying that we should just blindly believe every single thing that an executive at Sony says. Obviously, you shouldn't do that for anything ever. Always question some things, always be open-minded, and understand that things can change at any moment, and things can be said that may not hold true in the long run. But at the same time, I think if you look at the things that Mark Cerny has said, you look at the things that Jim Ryan has said, you look at the things that Herman Hulst has said, you even listen sometimes to the things that Shuhei Yoshida says, right? And in my opinion, it seems like they're doing the right thing. I think they're on a very good track right now and a very good path, and I hope they stick to that. Spud, you're saying, in my opinion, Microsoft's 2-year non-exclusive decision guarantees PS5 sales will crush Xbox Series X sales. Sony literally has a 2-year head start before the Series X can finally push its hardware. You're not wrong about that, Spud. There's no doubt that when I've kind of said this before, where I think that there is going to be a very defining difference, like a clear as day difference between the PlayStation 5 hardware and the Xbox Series X hardware, and that difference is not going to be the power. A lot of people have tried to convince us that that is going to be the most defining difference, but I promise you it's not. We're seeing it now. We're seeing it unfold before us, clear as day. The defining difference between these two pieces of hardware are the exclusive games. And if you don't believe me now, I think, Spud, what you're saying, I think you're going to see it in the sales. And I know that there's a lot of people who are like, sales don't mean anything, and play games, not sales. But let's be real here, guys. We can't be completely ignorant to the way the market goes, right? And the trends. And I think a trend you're going to see within the console gaming market, just like you've seen throughout all these years of the console market existing, you're going to see the trend of the console that has the most highest quality exclusive games, the most enticing games, is the one usually that's going to sell best. Now, that's not always true. We saw what happened with the Wii U, but it has to be a healthy balance. You can have a console potentially be extremely successful, and that success is maybe 80 to 90% because of the exclusive games. You look at the Switch. Yes, the Switch does get third-party support, but let's be honest here. Not many people are buying a Switch saying, I can't wait to play all my third-party games on my Switch. Okay? The Switch's greatest strength is not only its versatility, but its abundance of high-quality AAA games that are looked at as must-have games to a lot of the gaming market and the casual market. And I think that Sony does a great job as well, just on the other end of the spectrum, where you could look at Nintendo's games and say they're more accessible, they're more cartoony, more child-friendly, just more easygoing. Sony, in my opinion, is tackling the opposite of that, where they have these rich, mature, just brutal experiences in some cases that you really can't get anywhere else. And I think that right there is truly the greatest strength of the PlayStation brand as of right now. But the fact that they get literally, you could argue they get the best third-party support. Honestly, I think it's safe to say they do. They get the strongest and best third-party support. That's a potent combination for extreme success. And, Spud, as you were saying, an easy way to not only get off to a strong sales start, but continually sell your console very effectively. So, Alpha Rex, once again, you're saying, bro, your OnlyFans page is fire. That's highly concerning, man, because I don't have an OnlyFans page as far as I know. So I want to say right now that if there's an MBG OnlyFans page, don't fall for it. It's not the real thing. And as I said, that is highly, highly concerning. So yeah, we have over 1,900 people watching right now, which is absolutely amazing. So I want to thank everybody for being here, hanging out with me, listening to what I have to say, especially at a time like this. I hope everybody is staying safe, taking care of themselves, taking care of each other, staying healthy. That's the most important thing, obviously, at all times. If you could do me a big favor, hit that like button as we move on to the next topic here, unless maybe I have a few more things to say about this topic. I'm not sure yet. Let me look at my notes here, but so yeah, I wrote down here, and I'm going to refer to the chat on this one. How do you guys feel knowing that Jim Ryan has officially confirmed this? I mean, yeah, Jim Ryan didn't come out here and straight up say directly all PS5 exclusives will not be cross-gen. He didn't say it in those words, but there's no mistaking when you read between the lines, and frankly, I don't even think it requires you to read between the lines. There's no mistaking that what he's saying here is that giving something special to the PlayStation 5 fans and owners is exclusive games, and that's what he's saying. So how do you feel about this now that it's essentially officially confirmed by Jim Ryan himself? Does it make you even more excited to see the PlayStation 5 exclusive games that are going to be revealed this Thursday? Frankly, it does get me even more excited. Eric Golden, you're saying PS5 Backwards compatibility will cover all PS2, PS3, and PS4 games, according to a Turkish retailer. Yeah, I don't know if I have that written down in my next topic. I may have actually come across that after I wrote up my topics, but that is something that I did want to touch on. Again, there are a lot of rumors coming out right now about this, and I have a couple things that I do want to say to my audience and not only give my own opinion and thoughts on it, but maybe some advice that I would give many of you when it comes to should you realistically expect full backwards compatibility. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to move on to that topic very soon here. Another question, I don't think this is a question I wrote down. I think it's just a statement. I said, some people are trying to say, and we did cover this, that this is an anti-consumer move by Sony. They're saying that it's anti-consumer to have PS5 only games or only exclusives that are not cross-gen. And as I said, I completely disagree. I think this is pro-consumer, and I think it means that it means that if you're somebody who's willing to pay $500 for a PlayStation 5 console at launch or within the first year of it launching, right, and you're an early adopter, that you can at the very bare minimum at least know that the games you're going to be playing are the best they can possibly be on this next generation hardware. I'm not going to lie to you guys, and I think this is the last thing I'm going to say on this matter before we move on to the next topic. one of the biggest deterring factors for me as an Xbox One X owner, and knowing that I'm extremely excited for the PlayStation 5 hardware, and I'm definitely interested in the Xbox Series X hardware, the biggest deterrent for me is when Microsoft came out and they blatantly said, point blank, at the very minimum for the first year of the console, but potentially even 2 years, right? They did say that, 1 to 2 years. We don't know exactly what they're going to go with, but at the bare minimum, for the first year, any games that come out on the Xbox Series X from their first-party studios or their partners, well, maybe not their partners, because we know that game, The Medium. Actually, let me get my other paper here, because I had more notes. I had more stuff that I had to say on this topic that I just reminded myself, and I forgot that I wrote this down. But I just want to say that the next thing I'm about to read to you here, this is probably the number one reason why I feel honestly kind of deflated about the idea of wanting to buy both a PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X at launch. I mean, the truth is, guys, there's a very good chance I might not buy an Xbox Series X console until the day comes where I see a game on there that is only exclusive, that I can only play on the Series X. Right? I know I could play it on PC, but let's just assume that we don't have to assume I'm not a PC gamer. So for me, it's just the console world, right? And as long as I can play most, if not all, of Microsoft's games on my Xbox One X for, at the very least, the first year, I have no incentive, especially if I'm going to be buying a PS5, to want to spend even more money to get a Series X. Gabriel Rudolph, you're saying, what's your opinion on mid-gen boosted consoles? To quickly give you my opinion on that, I think it's perfectly fine. I don't know if it's going to be necessary this time around. It might be, but I think as long as it shares overall the same architecture, but it's basically just like, we have this one has more compute units, and maybe because of that it can achieve like higher graphical fidelity. Again, I don't know if that's going to be necessary this time around, and I don't know what Sony's plans are on that. What I do know is that I did put out a poll on my channel, which got a lot of votes. I think it got 16 or 17,000 votes, asking people what you're anticipating. Are you anticipating that Sony is going to release a PlayStation 5 Pro within the first 3 to 4 years of the PS5 being on the market? And most of you, almost, I think over 80% of you, said yes. So I was thinking about potentially doing a future video just dedicated to that, giving my thoughts on it, and kind of referring to what you guys are saying as well. And so, yeah, I also want to take, before I go on my last tangent here, I'm going to take a second, because some people have complained to me about this before, to just move this here briefly and put this in front once again. I'm not going to let the member credits roll again. We'll do that at the end. But I'm doing this because some people have complained to me that when they watch this podcast, they are worried that they're going to get screen burn. So I'm just doing that as a courtesy to hopefully ensure that no screen burn occurs for anybody who may be forgetting to, do something about that. So you're welcome for that. For anybody, let me know if you are somebody who is helped out by what I just did there. But the last thing I wanted to say here, and this is kind of important, okay? Mike, and this falls in line with the whole exclusivity thing that we've been discussing. Yeah, I know some people are saying screen burn. Really? Yeah, I mean I think there are people who watch this podcast on OLED TVs, and if I'm not mistaken, there are people who, if I'm not mistaken, OLED TVs can experience screen burn. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's a real thing. So, what is screen burn? Screen burn is basically where there's a still image left on the screen for so long that it actually gets burned into the screen, and you can see it faintly. And sometimes it can be really bad. It can actually ruin TVs. So, somebody's saying their phone screen is OLED. So yeah, that's why you can't keep a still image up there for too long, because it can literally burn. That image can burn into your screen. So yeah, hopefully that explains that. But anyway, yeah, speaking of OLED, I'm thinking about potentially trying, if it's possible for me, to upgrade to an OLED TV before I get my hands on a PS5 to really get that true, best visual quality I possibly can. So let me know, do you guys have OLED TVs? If not, or for those who do you recommend it? Should I get an OLED TV for the PS5? Mr. Twister, you're saying thoughts of Sony's rumor potentially acquiring Sega. I'm going to be real with you, and again, we will talk about this later. I don't think it's going to happen. It would be quite possibly the biggest bombshell we will get over the course of this entire generation if that happens. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Sega. I also have nothing against them. But I don't think it's going to happen. I wouldn't anticipate that. But when I tell you that would be the biggest bombshell, potentially, in the past 5 years, I mean, that would be huge. That would be absolutely huge. Let me see what you guys are saying real quick. You're saying, I have an OLED, definitely get one. I use my OLED for PC gaming, so hell yeah, get one. So it seems, yeah, screen burn is now negligible. Is that true? I don't know if is that true. I feel like they're modern day OLED technology. It's been updated to the point where screen burn, I don't know if that's something you still have to worry about, but I did see at least one person complaining about it last week. So I just figured, hey, I could just do something. Just takes a quick second. But anyway, guys, before I get too distracted here. So I wrote down Microsoft tries to push back against Sony, with the head of Xbox marketing, Aaron Greenberg, tweeting this out. And this is what he tweeted out. Xbox believes, also, before I go into this, it's worth noting this tweet came out almost immediately after Jim Ryan's interview actually came out, where he made it clear that they have plans to do PS5 only exclusives. So this is what he tweeted. Xbox believes in generations of games that play on the latest hardware, taking advantage of next-generation innovation, offering more choice, value, and variety than any other console launch ever. All of our studio's titles launch into Game Pass, and you get those next-gen game upgrades for free. But what's funny is not only did Mike Ybarra's comments, were they worth noting, we talked about that earlier, but we actually have the developers of the upcoming horror game, The Medium. The Medium is an Xbox exclusive. We saw this showcased during the first, next-gen game reveal or whatever that did not go so well for Microsoft. We have them kind of chiming in as well. Granted, they didn't chime in at the exact same time. They said this earlier, but it's worth noting that, they're saying that the Medium is an Xbox Series X console exclusive. This is what they said in their tweet. It's going to be an Xbox Series X console exclusive. And the gameplay mechanics, and this is what they said. I'm going to read it word for word. The gameplay mechanics we are creating for the Medium can only be fully realized on next-gen hardware. The game simply could not work the same way on a current generation platform. Now, this is coming from a smaller indie developer, as far as I know. I don't know if they're small, but I know they're independent. So how do you think Sony's studios and developers would feel about the idea of their massive AAA games that they're working on having to work on 2013 hardware? You have literal developers who are working on an Xbox Series X exclusive claiming this, yet you're still going to have these people pushing back saying, but scalability. Come on. So we have straight from VA1, you're saying, do you think Sony will purchase Remedy and or Bluepoint? They're not going to purchase Remedy as far as I know, because Remedy has a deal worked out with Epic Games. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it could happen. Hold on. Give me 1 second here, guys. I need to adjust something. Yeah, I don't like to see people spamming. So if you spam, you're gonna be put on timeout. If you continue to spam after that, you're gonna get banned. So just putting that out there. I don't like spam, and I don't think anybody does. I think that's just disrespectful. And for those of you who feel the need to spam because you just want me to answer your question so badly, hang out until the end of the podcast. I do a Q&A section with my chat where I try my best to answer as many questions as I can. So, I just had to mention this before we moved on to the next topic because, guys, I understand that there are Xbox fans who are going to defend everything, right? There are Xbox fans and enthusiasts, and that's fine. I don't care. They can like what they like and defend what they want. I just think that they become a little bit aggressive because they're basically anybody who says that, anybody who says that essentially if you try to be excited or enthused about the idea of PlayStation 5 exclusive games, right? It's just you're being anti-consumer and you're kind of being not so smart because scalability. And with scalability, that ensures that nothing can be achieved on the next-gen hardware that can't be achieved on... That's basically what they're saying, okay? They're saying that nothing can be achieved on next-gen hardware that can't realistically be achieved or downscaled enough to be achieved on the consoles that came out in 2013. And to me, this is like, not only does that just sound dumb from a surface level, like you're trying to tell me that cutting edge 2020 technology, that no matter what, because of scalability, anything that can be achieved on that, anything can be downscaled enough to be achievable on the older consoles without the need for having a completely separate development team. Not only does that sound ridiculous on a surface level, but we literally have developers, okay? And I have to stress this, developers who are working on an Xbox Series X exclusive, not first party, second party. It's their choice, clearly, right? And they're making it clear, saying this, literally basically backhanding the people who are trying to defend this, who are making these claims. I mean, listen, like, who are you going to listen to? You're going to listen to some random people on the internet who scream scalability and there's not going to be a difference? Or are you going to listen to developers who are making a game for the Xbox Series X and PC exclusively say, oh yeah, we're doing it for just the Series X because we couldn't achieve what we wanted to when it comes to gameplay mechanics if we didn't? I'm going to listen to the developers every time, okay? So, Zach M., you're saying, I think the dev from Scorn said that the Xbox Series X only 2 keep up the great work. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that Scorn dev seems like, I don't know. They've been talking a lot about Xbox, but they do seem very enthused about the Xbox Series X hardware. But, yeah, I don't know, guys. I just don't understand. I just do not understand how people can, like... If you are okay with the idea of cross-gen exclusives, that's fine. I'm not saying there's something wrong with you or you shouldn't be okay with that or accept that. Like, that's fine. If you think what Microsoft is doing is good, then fine. Fine, man. But at the same time, I truly do feel that you need to stop trying to push back so hard on people who, like myself and many others, who say we are excited and to know that PS5 exclusives will be truly exclusive and they're not going to be held back. Stop pushing back against people saying that, claiming, oh, that's not true. Nothing's going to be held back. Like, you're literally wrong. You're literally wrong, and you're literally going against actual developers who are telling you you're literally wrong. So that's my rant for that. Judah Zuck, you're saying, I'm an Xbox fan, but I'm also an MBG fan, and I'm also sick and tired of Xbox management not giving us what we want, exclusive content. Well, thank you, Judah. I appreciate that you have a level head where you understand that this podcast, this content I put on my channel is not here to bash people who are fans of the Xbox platform. Everybody is allowed to enjoy what they want to enjoy, but there's no doubt that, in my opinion, and clearly, you are advocating for this, claiming you are an Xbox fan, there's no doubt that a large chunk of the gaming community want to see Microsoft do things differently than they have been doing them. I mean, there's no doubt that they get good guy points for doing what they're doing, and, accessibility, and, there is something to be said for the idea that if you don't, they're not forcing you, right? Like, this is how they play the good guy role. They're not strong-arming you or forcing you to go buy their new expensive console to have access to their latest games. And Game Pass is also another reason for that. And I get that, but still, this is maybe why, when you look at Sony's titles, they're as high quality as they are. Like, if you think, I want you to think about this. I appreciate that super chat, Judah Zuck. For the people who, I just want you to think about this, okay? When you think about PlayStation's exclusive games in general, Sony's first-party games, and occasionally even second-party games like Bloodborne and whatnot, what's the number one, like, what are the words that are associated with these games? Like, just the first words that come to mind. For me, the first word that comes to mind is quality, okay? Now, why do you think this is? Do you think this quality Do you think it's purely driven just by the need to make a high quality game? Well, of course, yes, we can say yes to that. But is there more behind it? The answer to that, in my opinion, is very clearly also yes. This is why Sony has the talent they do. This is why they've been able to cultivate the talent that they have. This is also why people are becoming more aware of this. The need to sell your expensive hardware naturally, just fundamentally drives the need to ensure your games that you're going to sell exclusively for this hardware are convincing enough. Like, I'm telling you, this is the mentality that Sony has that Microsoft does not. And when I alluded to this earlier where I said there is a huge differentiating factor between these two consoles. There's a huge separating factor. What is that factor? It's this right here. It's philosophy. Sony has the philosophy that in order for us to sell this PlayStation 5 console, this cutting-edge $500 machine, we need to have games on display that not only show what this console is capable of, but get people excited enough to want to enthusiastically go out there and spend $500 to obtain this new console and play these new games. To whereas Microsoft's philosophy is, it's not about the console, it's not about the hardware, it's not even about what's capable of being achieved on the hardware, it's simply about accessibility. Getting this in as many people's hands as possible, making it as easy as possible for people to have access to this. Now, when you think about that from just a broad standpoint, it almost sounds like, oh, well, yeah, of course what Microsoft is doing is better. That's better for people in general. That's better for everyone, you know? But then when you start to think, well, at what cost? Because everything has a price. Everything. At what cost does it come to, like, what is the price that's being paid in order to make it as easy as possible through Game Pass and through options to allow everybody to have access, right? The price is inevitably, to a certain extent, going to be quality. Yeah. Not all the time, but it's just naturally, when you're talking about volume, when you're talking about numbers, and just basically, hey, have access to this game for $10 a month, yeah, there's going to be a sacrifice in quality. We've literally seen that. Now, I'm not sitting here saying all of Microsoft's games are low quality. I'm not claiming that. But there's no doubt that there has been a quality problem. There's other sacrifices as well. There's other prices to be paid. The price is people feel less incentivized to support your console. And the price to be paid there for us, for console enthusiasts, for people who want to see the console not just merely survive, but thrive, is less overall interest. People wonder why I care about sales. I'll tell you why I care about sales. It's not because I care about my plastic box so much that I can't sleep at night without it. I know that's what people want to assume. It's because I grew up playing games on the console. It's my favorite way to experience video games. It's very special to me. It means something to me, and I hold it dear. And because of that, I want to see it continue to thrive, not just survive. I want to see the console market grow. And the price to be paid for us in this case is the console becomes a hell of a lot less relevant. When people can get their games on PC, and not only on PC, but for $10 a month, why the hell would anybody go out there and buy a console? Oh, well, but don't you understand, MBG? The console market, they're always going to buy consoles. Not always true. Not always true. Here's the thing. Is that true when the competition is basically saying, if you want to play our games, you need to buy our console? No, what that's going to result in is, well, maybe luckily for me, is more people buying the PlayStation 5 and less people buying the Xbox Series X or the Series S or whatever. I know I'm going on a huge tangent here, but this is, you talk about, this is why I support PlayStation the way I do. I just think they do it right, and I'm not saying Microsoft needs to copy them to the T, but I'm not a big fan of Microsoft's approach. If they start showing me games that get me excited to subscribe to Game Pass to play them or buy them outright for full price or possibly even buy an Xbox Series X, then we'll talk about that when I cross that bridge. But right now, I just feel like I have an Xbox One X, and if I really wanted to, and I probably won't do this, if I really wanted to, I could just pay $10 to access any of these games that Microsoft is going to be revealing. And I can have access to them for the next year, potentially 2 years. How is that helping the console market? Huh? How is that going to breed higher quality games? It's not. It's just not. Mark my words. We have Ivan K. You're saying, I hope the PS5 will have good 1440p, 144 hertz support. I have no intention of purchasing another TV, which I use very rarely. For me, a decent monitor is the go-to. Yeah, man. It'll be interesting to see what other ways you can play your PS5. I'm sure they will have 1440p support. I don't know if they're gonna have 144 hertz support. I think they'll have 120. We did hear that Gran Turismo the developers saying that they could potentially get their game up to 240 frames or something like that, which is insanity. I don't know if that's even I'm sure it's possible, but I just don't know how realistic that is in trying to achieve that. But I just had to go on this massive rant here, guys, because I get like, I'm not trying to tell people that you shouldn't support Microsoft or Xbox, okay? Like, look, I've always said, and I'm continuing to say, support what you want. But when people come at me and try to tell me that, oh, this is why Xbox is going to dominate next generation, this is why Xbox is doing everything better than Sony, and they're about to do better in the games area, it's not. Look, the proof is in the pudding. I've always said this. The proof is in the pudding, and at the end of the day, you're going to see. The results will be here, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you, just like I'm asking you not to tell me, so I'm not going to tell you. All I am going to say is pay close attention. Pay close attention to this June 4th event and the game showcase. Pay close attention to the build up to the PlayStation 5. Pay close attention to the launch of the PlayStation 5. And then even more so, pay close attention to how this generation unfolds, because you're going to find that Sony actually, believe it or not, because I know some people can't believe this, knows what they're doing. They know how to keep the console market relevant. They know what the console market wants. That's the point. They know what they want. So, rant over. The Contextual Gamer, you're saying, I would understand your feeling of missing out on a game you knew about not being cross-gen, but Sony are only doing next-gen. New IPs demand better. I don't know. I don't know, man. It sounds to me like I highly doubt that the only... I get it. Demand better. But at the same time, it's like... It's unrealistic to expect that the only next-gen... If I'm reading this correctly, the only next-gen games Sony's going to be doing are new IPs. I don't think that's realistic. I think we are going to get an abundance of new IPs, especially over the next couple of years. But you're gonna see sequels. You're going to see follow-ups. You're going to see remakes and stuff like that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I appreciate your super chat, buddy. We have Nunes Braga. You're saying you should definitely consider a 48-inch OLED from LG. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different OLED options. I'll have to look into which one I want to get if I end up getting one. But yeah, I'm hoping that I can get an OLED. Now we are going to move on to the next topic here, and we got to keep this train rolling, because if not, I'm going to be sitting here for 3.5 hours. So we have still over 1,800 people hanging out with me here. Thank you guys so much for showing your continued support. Be sure to hit that like button. Let's see if we can possibly get this podcast up to 1,000 likes before it ends. That would be absolutely fantastic. It's the easiest way for you to support it. And as I continually say here, this is how YouTube's algorithm works. They look at the amount of likes something gets, and that's one of the many things they decide on whether or not they're going to push this out. So if you want to help this grow, hit the like button. Now we're moving on to the next topic, which deals with backwards compatibility with the PlayStation 5. There seems to be a new narrative that some people are trying to create, claiming that PlayStation fans, those of us who are excited for the PS5, don't care about backwards compatibility or don't want it. This seems to be stemming from the idea that a lot of PlayStation fans are actually excited about the idea of PlayStation 5 exclusives not being cross-gen. That, combined with the fact that Sony clearly is going to have to talk more in depth about backwards compatibility with the PS5, there's no doubt that Microsoft has done an awesome job with backwards compatibility, and it's awesome for its fans. But at the same time, I simply don't understand this idea of people treating backwards compatibility as if it is the main selling point of a next-generation console. It is important, absolutely, and is it the ultimate determining factor, though, as to whether or not I or many other people will buy a next-generation console? Simply put, no. They're saying all this even though PlayStation 5 has been confirmed to offer backwards compatibility with PS4. It's already been confirmed by Sony, but as you can see, there is this new narrative that's beginning to be spun, and Sony has issued, and this is just kind of an informative little piece here at the end that's worth noting. Apparently, Sony has issued a mandate starting July 13th that any game submitted for certification on PS4 must be compatible with PS5. So, yeah, my whole thing here with this, guys, look, I want to make a couple things clear. This is just from my standpoint, from the way I see things. The first thing I want to make clear is I do care about backwards compatibility. But I simultaneously want to make it very clear that backwards compatibility is not make or break for me. It's just simply not. I would be just as excited for the PlayStation 5 if it had no backwards compatibility. Now, that doesn't mean I would celebrate that. I would not celebrate that. And I'm very happy that at the very least, we know PS4 backwards compatibility will be there. I feel like that would have been just a boneheaded move on Sony's part if they didn't support PS4 backwards compatibility. What we need to understand here, and this is another point I need to make very clear, Sony, you can't blame them, and I'm not defending this, but you cannot blame them for not caring about backwards compatibility as much as Microsoft does, because Sony has managed to sell over 110 million PS4s. Probably they'll eventually hit 115 and 120 million sold, right? With zero backwards compatibility. Now, does that mean that they shouldn't care at all? No, I'm not advocating for that. Don't mix my words here. But I'm just simply saying you need to understand, if you question why maybe Sony is not as all in with it as Microsoft is, that's why. That's why. Now, I think we should look at what they're doing with PS4 backwards compatibility, knowing that they're trying to boost games and make it so that it's as seamless as possible. That is a very positive thing, and I'm glad they're doing that. Something else I do need to make clear here is there are a lot of rumors starting to come out here that, and I probably will make a separate video discussing this, in shorter form, so my wider audience can end up interacting with it and hear what I have to say about it. There's rumors coming from two different places. There are rumors coming from insiders. Oh wait, no, we can't call them insiders because they don't want to be called insiders, because they don't want to be blamed when they're wrong. Okay, but there's no doubt that, and I understand that, there's people who claim to have contact with insiders who are saying this, who are saying that Sony's apparently going to have an event of some sort, or they're hearing that there's going to be an entire event dedicated to just talking about PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 1 backwards compatibility. Now, I will admit, the timing of this is pretty interesting, and I don't want to write it off completely, because the timing also lines up with apparently a Turkish retailer. Somehow, like, there's just imagery out there where it's coming from a Turkish retailer. They're claiming two things that, to me, I'm sorry, they both just sound unrealistic. Although, I don't know. Well, they're claiming that the DualSense controller it does have a touch screen. Okay? Now, do I believe this? I won't lie to you guys. It's fascinating to me. It's interesting to hear, apparently from a Russian outlet. Right? A Russian outlet is claiming that they are in contact with somebody who knows about the PlayStation 5's design, and apparently there is a major feature, some type of feature, that Sony is hiding. Could this be it? Could it be backwards compatibility? I don't know, guys. I'm going to tell you this, all right? I'm not trying to be a buzzkill when I say this, and I'm not trying to kill anybody's excitement. Trust me, I'm the last person that wants to do that. But just for the sake of keeping your expectations in check, okay? I'm not saying you shouldn't be excited, but we got to keep our expectations in check. I'm going to tell you this. Do not expect this, okay? I'm just going to put it to you bluntly. Do not expect full backwards compatibility until it's officially revealed. Don't listen to anybody trying to tell you it's real. And I'm only saying this because I'm telling you, this is something that if you choose to buy into it, that I've been burned before. If you choose to buy into it and it's not true, you're going to feel pissed off and you're going to feel disappointed. And the last thing you want as a PlayStation fan, as a PlayStation enthusiast, as somebody who's excited for the PS5, the last thing you want is anything unnecessarily tainting your excitement for the PlayStation 5. So if you go in not expecting full backwards compatibility, not expecting PS3 games, PS2 games, or PS1 games, just maybe PS4 games, right? Then there's nothing that's going to get in the way. there's nothing that's going to get in the way. Maybe at that point, the only thing that can get in the way is, oh, this specific game I want it to be announced wasn't announced, right? But that's just, that everybody's going to experience that to a certain extent. We have J Bear. You're saying, MBG, curiously, what PlayStation classics did you grow up on, such as games like Gex, Tomba, Hogs of War, etc.? Backwards compatibility would be nice, but it's not make or break. I do agree. As I said, it's not make or break. Believe it or not, I was way too young to be playing it, but I remember playing Duke Nukem on the PS1. I remember playing a little bit of Metal Gear Solid. I'd never... Metal Gear Solid, to me, it was hard to wrap my head around at that time. It wasn't until, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 I really started to get into it. I mean, I was so young. I used to play, SpongeBob games on the PS1 that I got pissed off at because I don't know if it was a terrible game or if I was just too dumb to be able to properly play it. God, there's so many games that are just... I remember Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1. That was absolutely a huge one for me. There's many others. I frankly they're not all at the forefront of my mind, but those are some that I can remember for sure. But getting back to what I'm saying here, guys, I more than anybody, I more than anybody want this to be true. I want to believe people who are telling me that they have inside contacts that are telling them Sony has a separate event planned where they're going to talk about full backwards compatibility and they're going to go toe-to-toe with Microsoft. And this is where we do have to give Microsoft a lot of credit. They've certainly done their due diligence and certainly done a fantastic job of having a really awesome backwards compatibility solution. Is that going to be what makes me go out and buy an Xbox Series X? No, it's not. But it's awesome that it's there, right? It's awesome for anybody who is planning on buying it. But also, it seems my stream quality... Can you guys let me know, how is the stream quality? Does it keep getting blurry and kind of in and out? I don't think it's choppy. I don't think it should be choppy for anybody, but is it becoming blurry? I need to know, because this is something I have to try to prepare properly for this June 4th stream. I want to make sure it's as... I have this massive fear that it's just not going to go well, and I'm going to have technical issues, but let me know if the stream is being choppy for you guys at all, or if it's looking blurry or anything like that. A lot of you guys are saying it's fine. It's all good. Okay, I guess it's just on my end then what I'm seeing. It's compression. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for keeping me updated with that. I'm paranoid if you can't tell, but I just, as much as I want to believe what these individuals are saying, as much as I want to buy into, believe this Turkish retailer that clearly has nothing to gain, by saying this, right? As much as I want to believe that, I just don't, I don't want to say, but that's the thing. I'm not saying it's not possible. I just don't think it's likely at all. I genuinely believe that if this is something Sony had, they would have talked about it to a certain extent at the deep dive reveal. Now maybe not. Maybe Sony is just we are going to save this for its own little event. And I will admit to you this, if this is real, which I don't believe it is, but if it is, that will be colossal. That will be so big, simply because it's something, as you can tell just based off of what I'm saying, that nobody is realistically expecting at this point. It would be an absolute uppercut to Microsoft. And I'm talking, when I talk about Sony kind of lurking in the shadows, and when they strike, it's not just about landing their hit, it's about hitting hard, striking hard. This would be an absolutely huge uppercut. Just imagine, I'm seeing it in my head, right? It would be huge. But that's just it. That's not, for me, that's not the thing that's going to get me truly excited for next gen. It will become something that, if it's real, wow, okay, Sony just basically dropped a megaton bomb on everybody without them seeing it coming. And that's just one piece of the puzzle, yeah. But for me, that's the cherry on top. And that's the whole point I'm trying to get at with this conversation is, look, I saw some articles being written up that I'm not going to rant about because it is what it is, saying that some fans are panicking, some PlayStation fans are panicking about backwards compatibility. Look, there's absolutely no doubt that Sony has to talk more in depth about backwards compatibility, specifically when it comes to PlayStation 4's backwards compatibility, right? Like, they need to make it more clear. They need to be more concise about it, maybe actually show it in real time and let people know, like, exactly, just very clearly what to expect, okay? They need to do that for sure a little bit better, but I do feel that, that it's just the cherry on top. Like, for me, the cake and the icing itself is, the cake is the games. The icing is the hardware that's going to run the games. And the cherry on top of that cake, or the sprinkles, you could say, is backwards compatibility. Also, it's worth noting that within the icing is also the features that the console is going to offer. So we got, just to stick with this metaphor here, the cake is the games, okay? The icing is the, the console itself. Almost just choke there. The console itself and the features that the console is going to offer. And the cherry on top is backwards compatibility. That's how I look at it, or the sprinkles on top. I guess sprinkles makes more sense. Do we put cherries on top of cakes? I don't think so. So, excuse me, I got to take a little drink here. But let me know what you guys think about this. And yeah, I see that there's no doubt that Sony, in my opinion, has made it a little bit confusing for people to fully understand whether or not, are all 4,000 or will all 4,000 PS4 games be playable day one with the PS5, or is this something that's going to happen over time? You know what I mean? Like, there's no doubt that they do need to, in my opinion, do a better job in trying to clear this up for everybody and just make it, like I said, crystal clear what's going on here. But, sorry, I'm seeing some interruption to my stream here. Again, I don't know if this is on my end. I'm starting to get really annoyed with this. Let me know if you guys see anything, but like any type of buffering or anything. But we have, let me see here. MH, you're saying for backwards compatibility, I think I think you meant to say D-pad. D-pad needs to function as a button, I think. Could be wrong, though. Yeah, that's definitely possible. Hold on, guys. On my end, I'm having some issues with my control room here, so I'm going to refresh it, and I'm going to hope that nothing actually happens on your end. I do apologize in advance if it does. It shouldn't, but it might, and we'll see. I'm looking at it on my phone here. Everything seems to be good. So anyway, before we get too derailed here, Bobby Means, you're saying if PS5 is backwards compatible, it's lights out. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, Bobby. It's absolutely huge. It's absolutely huge. You guys are saying it's on my end only? Okay, that's fine then. I just want to make sure, because I had an issue. I was trying to stream The Last of Us State of Play, and I was having just a lot of issues with that, and ever since then, I'm just paranoid. I'm super paranoid about this June 4th stream, because it's going to be possibly the biggest stream on my channel, maybe ever. And I'm so nervous that something's going to go horribly wrong, but no matter what happens, we will be talking that day. I promise you. We will be talking, for sure. You will get to know my thoughts. You will get to hear my reaction. Don't worry about that. Now, the last two questions that I wrote down here. How do we feel about backwards compatibility when it comes to next gen? Is it a make or break feature for you, or just the cherry on top or sprinkles on top, like I've said it is for me? And do we think Microsoft's approach to backwards compatibility will help them close the gap when it comes to market share and console sales? Frankly, my opinion on that is no, I don't think it will. I think it helps. I think it's a standout feature. I just don't think it's a feature that holds enough weight to make somebody go out there and buy a new $500 console. I think it holds weight, just not as much weight as some people want to make it seem like it does. So final words on this topic before we move on is, if you are somebody who is anticipating full backwards compatibility, if you've been listening to people, who claim that it's going to happen, I'm not saying don't listen to them. I'm just saying, if I were you, I would temper your expectations, keep them in check, and be hopeful, but do not be expecting. That's all. Be hopeful, but don't be expecting, and I think you'll be okay. Because if you're expecting, there's a good chance you're going to be let down. If you're hopeful but not expecting, well, hey, you hope for things all the time and they don't happen. No big deal. Move on. So with that being said, we're going to move on to the next topic here, and we have 1,700 people still watching, so thank you guys so much for being here and hanging out with me and spending this time with me. If you could do me a favor, hit that like button. And moving on to this topic here, we're talking about The Last of Us Part 2. And so I'm going to obviously not spoil anything. I'm also going to encourage anybody who doesn't want anything potentially spoiled in the chat to try to avoid the chat. And I'm also going to request that my mods try to do the best you can to ensure that nobody does that. I mean, let's try to be respectful here, guys. I know I can't control anybody, but I'm just going to encourage you to, there's no reason to needlessly spoil things for people. David, you're saying thick cake. I'm liking the sound of this PS5. LOL. Yeah, I guess in that way we could call it a thick cake, right? But thank you for that, buddy. So Sony showed off new Last of Us 2 gameplay, and according to a lot of people, including myself, it did look next level. I took time to watch it in 4K on my big screen TV, and I do have to say it was truly very thoroughly impressive. And we have iSiler18, you're saying backwards compatibility I find is important at launch, and then after 1 year it's useless. At least keep the best games first and third party available day one. Yeah, I could see why a lot of people end up feeling that way. Like, you want to be able to play a lot of the games that come out. Like, you think about Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us 2, stuff like that. Maybe like Days Gone, Death Stranding. And I'm sure everybody has different feelings and opinions on backwards compatibility. So it's hard to say, man. It's hard to say like what it's gonna be like exactly at the end of the day. But I don't think it's gonna be the make or break for anybody, honestly. But continuing here, it says Jim Ryan revealed some interesting info about The Last of Us Part 2, saying that as of right now, it is tracking better in Europe when it comes to pre-orders than Spider-Man was at this point in time. So this is a clear indicator that the game is going to sell like crazy, potentially breaking records. He also said that he hopes that this game will be a defining game of this generation, and that it will run on the PlayStation 5 no problem. So he did confirm that you will be able to play through backwards compatibility The Last of Us Part 2 no problem. We have Kevin Phillips, you're saying my newest best sub. Thank you, buddy. I really appreciate that. Thank you for your support. I appreciate everybody who is not only still here hanging out with me, but especially those who are donating and super chats and stuff. Really appreciate that. But I have some more info here regarding The Last of Us 2. So he did say that you will be able to play. As far as I know, he didn't mention anything about an upgraded version, but we can assume that The Last of Us Part 2 is going to have PS5 upgrades, I think. That's my assumption anyway. And, if they are, they're clearly going to save that reveal for a later date. It's also worth noting that The Last of Us 2 file size has been revealed, and it will be about 78.3 gigabytes, so not quite the 100 gigabytes that some people were saying it's going to be. So this gives you some time to make some space in your hard drive if you need to. And reviewers have also gotten their early review copies, and many of them who have been playing it or have completed are saying, well, they're not saying directly, but they are coming off as if they are very, very impressed and blown away with the game, which does pique my interest. So to just talk briefly about the gameplay of The Last of Us Part 2, actually, I put out, and I want to read this to you guys, I put out a community post, okay? Because some people were saying to me that my live reaction anyway, when I streamed it, didn't seem that great because I didn't come off as if I was super impressed. And I won't lie to you guys, that's kind of a side effect of live streaming reactions, is sometimes there's so many things going on, at least for me, and I have such a short attention span, that it's difficult for me to fully appreciate everything I'm witnessing in front of my eyes. And so that's why for the PS5 event, I will probably have 2 separate reaction videos. Obviously, I'm not going to call them that, like Reaction 1, Reaction 2, but there's no doubt that I'm going to have to take time to process everything we see that day and then talk about it again after I fully process it. And this is what I put out. I put out this community post a couple of hours actually after I was finished my stream and I was relaxing, and I decided I'm going to watch this in 4K on my big screen TV and really just hone in on it and pay 100% attention to it, see it in its best quality. And this is what I said. I said, I just watched the State of Play again, but I watched it in 4K this time, and I have to say, The Last of Us Part 2 looks stunning. I am genuinely and thoroughly impressed with how good the game looks, the overall attention to detail, and how smooth the gameplay and animations are. There's no way, in my opinion, that anyone can deny that. You can clearly tell that the developers who worked on it did a phenomenal job. I guess just seeing it in 4K and watching it alone on my big screen TV made me realize just how impressive it really is. And that's the truth. I know that there's a lot of people who are like, oh, you're trying to save face and you're a fraud and whatever. Okay, I guess. But I have to admit that what I'm seeing, like the gameplay I'm seeing, the level of detail, the animation quality, it really does come off as next level. And I have to applaud. I have to tip my hat to Naughty Dog and the developers who put a lot of work into it, saying, you wanted to show me gameplay, and I have to say, I am very impressed by it. It looks absolutely stunning. It really does. It really does. I mean, it almost looks like a next-gen game, and that's just insane. Samson, you're saying The Last of Us 2 looks great, but still not getting it, with a bunch of dots, ... Ghost of Tsushima all the way. Yeah, I mean, my excitement for both games is very high, obviously, and I'm not going to say which one I'm more excited for or which one I think is going to be better, simply because I think I'll just do that after I experience both of them, and I'll determine for myself which one I like better. But guys, here's something interesting. I've been made aware recently that there's basically a whole subsection of, I obviously get my fair share of haters that come from, the side of Xbox. They're Xbox fans and they don't agree with me, or they just straight up don't like me. Apparently now there's also a subsection of Last of Us 2 fans that also have a huge problem with me. I've been made aware that there are some content creators on YouTube that just focus exclusively on The Last of Us Part 2, and they didn't like a lot of what I had to say, and they are trying to paint me as some kind of fraud and flip-flopper, and I'm trying to save face. And the truth is, I'm going to put it as frankly as I can. I don't give a shit what anybody else thinks when it comes to my opinions, because they're my opinions and mine alone. However, I am always open to hearing the other side and hearing what other people have to say in a respectful way. If they disagree, I would like to know why they disagree. If they absolutely despise what I'm saying, I'm totally open to listening to why do you despise that, and really let me know, so maybe I can kind of think a little bit differently and consider other perspectives, right? But what you'll find on the internet more often than not, people, is that when you say things that people don't agree with, I'm guilty of this, okay? I'm not saying I'm innocent. It's very reactionary. There's a lot of very reactionary people that it's so much easier to just, bam, I'm going to, let you have it right now because F you, you suck. And it's just okay. I get it. Trust me. I've been there. I'm guilty of that myself. We're all human. We all do it. But it just seems to me that people, at least some people, are convinced that if I happen to play The Last of Us 2 and I happen to actually enjoy it, or I don't absolutely despise it, or I don't feel the need to absolutely crap on it when I'm done with it, that I'm just a fraud, or I'm a shill, whatever. It's just okay, well, that's fine, but I'm going to play it, and I'm just going to tell you honestly what I think of it. And I don't mean to turn this conversation into that. I know it always talks, every time we talk about The Last of Us 2, this is what it turns into. So I do apologize, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I just had to acknowledge that I did watch the State of Play, and after watching it really in 4K and seeing the entire thing, paying very close attention to it, it is impressive, man. And I'm sorry, I don't understand how anybody could see that and not say that is impressive in terms of whether it's the graphics, the attention to detail, the animations, or just how damn smooth that gameplay looks, right? Or how intense it is. I had to admit, I was very impressed with that. So, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. As I continually say, I will be playing it. I will be reviewing it. And actually, this does give me an opportunity. I'm going to take this opportunity now. We still have 1,600 people watching, so I hope you'll hear me out on this one. I want to talk about my memberships, or my membership for channel members. So I want to let everybody know who is either currently a member or was thinking about becoming a member or isn't a member, that I actually put out my first 2 exclusive pieces of content for members. The first is the MBG and Friends Game Club, which is a 45-minute podcast where me and my good friend, we both played. I went back and played God of War. He played it for the first time, and we talked about it and just gave our thoughts on it and just discussed the game for about 45 minutes. So that's out there for members. For anybody who hasn't seen it, you are entitled to that. You can find it in the community tab. Unfortunately, as of right now, that's the only place YouTube lets me put any content that is exclusive for members. So go check that out. The other piece of content is my first members only live stream, which went pretty well. It was a good time, actually, and that was about an hour long, an hour and 5 minutes. So if you're somebody who just wants more content, and this content I know I'm coming off as like a salesman right now, I don't mean to, but it's true. I went out of my way to try to ensure that this content was something different from my normal content that I put here daily out on the channel, different from the podcast, for people who are, willing to go above and beyond and support me directly. And so I just wanted to mention that to any members who are watching this podcast or are going to watch it after the fact. If you missed it, go check the community tab. It's there. And yeah, you can look. And also, first let me get to these super chats. Siler18, you're saying, at the moment, I strongly disagree with your stance on The Last of Us 2, but that's no reason to attack you. You pump out good content, simple as that. Well, thank you, buddy. I genuinely appreciate that. I am so okay with people strongly disagreeing with me and being just as passionate as I am. But the only people I truly have a problem with are people who feel the need to attack verbally or whatever. Why? Why do we have to resort to that? Because people are going to be like, because you attacked Naughty Dog. And it's like, look, I did apologize if I maybe came off a little bit too harsh. But it comes from a place of passion and care, right? And I did apologize for if I really if I came off as hateful, right? That was the last thing I was trying to come off as. I just wanted to be honest with my thoughts and what I saw. That's all. So, Mr. Hamster, you're saying sometimes people just can't take an opinion. Yeah, that is very true, Mr. Hamster. Sad but true. LSSJT, you're saying, MBG, can I have a glass of water? I currently cannot give you it, but if you're asking permission, sure, buddy, go get yourself a glass of water. But you're saying, and fanboys are getting nervous. Well, how the turntables. Yeah, at some point I'm going to have to use that as an intro clip for one of my videos, right? But thank you for that, buddy. But the last thing I just wanted to plug here when it comes to my channel memberships, just because I think this will be interesting to everybody, not just members. I already explained this to my members, but next month, for the MBG and Friends Game Club, I plan to do The Last of Us Part 2, but because it's coming out towards near the end of the month on the 19th, I highly doubt I'm going to be able to fully complete that within that time frame. So I'm going to break up the game club into 2 separate parts. The first part will be talking about maybe the first 8 to 10 hours of the game, and the second part will come after I actually complete the game and whoever else is going to be on that panel after they complete it as well. And I want to let you know that the first part will be going out to all channel members, not all channel members, to anybody who's subscribed to the channel. It will be made public, and the reason why I want to do this is honestly because I want to show you guys what MBG and Friends Game Club is all about, and I think it's going to be a big thing, and I know that a lot of people are very interested in seeing that, and so hopefully it will incentivize you to potentially consider becoming a member, and you can get access to that content exclusively going forward. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that. Obviously, I appreciate every single person who chooses to support me in any way, but I certainly do appreciate my channel members as well and those who go above and beyond. So we are going to move on to the final topic here, and as usual, before we finish off with the before we finish off this podcast and do the chat Q&A like we usually end it with, I need to go over some general gaming news with you, because as I've told you, I try to add a little bit more value to this podcast by covering not just purely PlayStation, hardcore PlayStation and Xbox talk. Let's go over some of the random pieces of news that have come out. Now, this is something that multiple people have mentioned at this point. Sega is teasing some kind of massive announcement for June 3rd or June 4th, and it will be revealed via Famitsu Magazine. The magazine is claiming it is an absolutely massive scoop, and they're actually comparing it, like this scoop, right, how big this news is going to be. They're saying it's comparable to the first Wired article that came out revealing the PlayStation 5. So, what could it be? To be honest, guys, I don't know. I've seen a lot of people saying that, oh, this is very clear that they're going to be getting back into the console space. You know, they're going to be making the console comeback. I'm just going to be honest right now. If Sega is choosing to reveal a new console either the same day or the day before Sony's big PS5 game showcase, congratulations, you just killed your console while simultaneously announcing it. Okay, so that's why I don't believe that. That just seems... could it be like a Dreamcast Mini or something like that? It could, but is that really considered like a huge scoop? Is that a huge announcement? Some people are saying, what if this is the announcement that Sony or Microsoft acquired them? It's certainly possible. However, I just don't know how likely that is. I don't know. So I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, I don't know what this could be. I really have no clue what this could be. And in fact, I'm going to refer to the chat on this one. I want you to let me know what you think this could be, because I don't know. We have Cobra Force. You're saying how much you want to bet the PS5 will look like that prototype. No doubt it will be the same or 95% similar to it. I will say the interesting thing about that prototype is it did seem over-engineered, but we've heard that it's apparently the PlayStation 5 has gone through multiple iterations, and one of the reasons why it looked over-engineered is because it needed to be that way for cooling and stacking. But I will tell you this, Cobra Force, I wouldn't be shocked if it was similar, but I will also say that if you look to history, it's actually considered pretty uncommon that a dev kit ends up looking anywhere close to the final. Well, I mean, maybe there are some, but it's just not that common that it looks that close to the final product. So obviously we're assuming it'll be a V-shaped console. I don't know about that. I don't know. We have T-Rev. You're saying it could be a Sega cloud streaming service. Yeah, actually, that's a really good guess there. That actually does seem significant, but is it like on the same level as a P? Like, do you think Famitsu's maybe hyping it up a little bit too much? I think that's definitely a possibility. Maybe Sega is going up against Xbox and is going to release Body Wash. I don't know, man. I don't know. So, when it comes to the Sega announcement, all I'll say on this is I will be paying attention. Yeah, I see, Seth, you're saying the PS2's dev kit was pretty close. Yeah, that is true. So, who knows? Who knows, man? I mean, I didn't think the dev kit looked that bad. I mean, it was definitely different and would be shocking, to say the least, if that was the final look of the console. But I don't really have that much of a problem with it, to be completely honest with you. So, let me take another drink here. My voice is still starting to go. Oh, God. I got this new tea. It's like supposed to be specifically for your like throat and to help it. Like, I heard that apparently people who talk for long periods of time, they recommend this tea. So, just got to take my tea break here. I know. All right, moving right along, though, we still have other news to go over. Apparently, the Mafia 2 remaster was not done very well at all and has actually been considered fairly disappointing by many, but it only gets worse as it seems Mafia 3 Definitive Edition actually removed PS4 Pro and Xbox One X support, and the dev team says that they are working on it. But, yeah, not a very good look. I know people are spill the tea, MBG. Oh, my God, that would be the worst. That would be the worst thing that could happen right now. But, I don't know what to say about Mafia 2 and 3. I think it's kind of ridiculous to think that somehow they removed Mafia 3's support for the mid-gen refresh consoles. I don't want to say that this should hamper anybody's excitement for Mafia 1, but it seems clear to me that all the effort is going into Mafia 1, it being a full remake. So, yeah, I don't think that you should expect or anticipate these same problems. Apparently with Mafia 2, there's like a lot of bugs or something. So, yeah, I don't know if there's two teams working on this project, but if there are, you could assume the A team is working on the remake for Mafia 1, and B team they worked on this and they had some issues. So, moving right along here. This one I don't actually care too much about, but I'm sure that some of you are Borderlands fans. It says apparently Borderlands movie director, because there's a movie that's being made in the Borderlands universe, and it's being directed by Eli Roth, has officially confirmed that Cate Blanchett, I think that's how you say her name, has been cast as Lilith. Now, I'm not a big fan of Borderlands. I don't know what to make of this, but I figured I'd let you guys know. You can let me know what you think of that in the chat. It also says here, EA has renewed their partnership with the NFL and has a new deal in place for the Madden franchise through 2025. So for anybody who was thinking that, we could expect to not see Madden for many years to come, you're wrong. We will, and they renewed that. So moving right along here, let me see. CD Projekt Red has revealed that the Witcher franchise has sold more than 50. I almost said 90 million. More than 50 million copies in total, and we also know that The Witcher 3 sold 6 million copies alone last year, most likely due to the Netflix show. We know that gave a huge, huge surge into sales, but that is very impressive. I think that CD Projekt Red actually went on to, I don't know if they still are, if it was just temporary, but they actually surpassed Ubisoft as the most valuable, gaming company or something like that. But very interesting nonetheless. 50 million is an absolutely huge milestone, and the hype for Cyberpunk 2077 is real and through the roof, and I think that that's just only going to help them even more. So here's another interesting one. Resident Evil 8, excuse me, apparently is or was set to launch in January of 2021, but that date may have changed slightly, just slightly. Dusk Golem, aka Aesthetic Gamer, once again, and I'm sure most of you know who this is at this point, very well-known insider, always talking about Resident Evil and Silent Hill. He is again talking about Resident Evil 8, and he's saying that Resident Evil 8 will be a more open, and I find this interesting, a more open installment compared to the last few games in the series. But it will also take, it'll kind of build off of Resident Evil 7, saying that this is also going to be the darkest Resident Evil game in the series. Now, I'm actually talking about the release date, it says the release date is slated for early 2021. It was originally supposed to be January, but now they're thinking it might fluctuate between January 2021 and potentially March 2021. But it's also worth noting that Capcom has some type of Resident Evil related announcement that's happening on June 10th. So, could we see Resident Evil 8 announced at this PS5 event? I think we could, but if we don't, then we will certainly, probably, I don't know why I say things like that. We will most likely see it announced at this, whatever this June 10th thing is that they have planned. So, Andrew Guds, you're saying you think that we will see an announcement of any new studios who are joining the family. We may see the game they are working on if this happens. All right, so yeah, honestly, man, I do think we're going to see a studio acquisition announced. If I had to put my money on which studio it's going to be, I think it's Blue Point. I just think it just makes the most sense, especially when you're considering Sony's back catalog of games that, have yet to be remade. I think Blue Point makes the most sense. I know for sure, I'm telling you, you're going to see Blue Point's next project revealed at this event, and it wouldn't surprise me if while you see them revealing it before they end their segment, they let you know that Blue Point Games has joined Sony as a first-party studio. If not them, something that is under the radar right now, okay? Something that is under the radar. If I'm not mistaken, what's Housemarque, okay? If you recall, they're working on a AAA project, and we know that Shuhei Yoshida paid a visit to them back in 2019, and there was a lot of speculation that one of two things happened when he paid that visit. That they struck a deal, second party, where they're going to fund this AAA game that they're working on, and it's going to be exclusive to the PS5, or they acquired them. So the two most likely studios, in my opinion, are either Housemarque or Bluepoint. But if I had to put my money on one, I would say it's going to be Bluepoint. I think that just makes more sense than Housemarque. But I do think we will see a PlayStation 5 exclusive game announced at this event that Housemarque is working on. I haven't seen pretty much anybody talking about that. I'm not saying I'm an insider. I'm not saying I'm talking to people that have inside information, so don't take it that way. But I just have a strong feeling you're going to see that revealed there. So keep in mind, I don't talk to anybody. I'm just trying to connect the dots here. So I see somebody asking, Housemarque are doing AAA now. Yeah, dude, this is something that has kind of went under the radar for quite some time. In fact, I'm going to see if I can just look it up on the fly here to relay this information so you know that I'm not just making this up, right? Let me see. Housemarque AAA. Let's see what comes up. Yeah, here we go. So Housemarque puts Storm Divers development on ice for a big AAA game. This was actually brought up early this year in January, but I think it was talked about. I know we're getting a little bit derailed here, but I just find this interesting. This was talked about before that. It says Housemarque, the developer of PlayStation classics such as Resogun and Alienation, has been working on a Battle Royale title for the past couple of years called Storm Divers. The project looked suitably okay every single time it has been shown to the public, but now the developer has announced that development of the title has been put on hold, and it's because they're working on a secret AAA game. Better yet, it's expected to be revealed soon, potentially at the assumed upcoming PlayStation 5 reveal event. Now, what's interesting is they put upcoming PlayStation 5 reveal event, and this was back in January, so you can, it's funny, right? Like, here we are, June 4th, that's going to be the reveal event, but it goes on to say here, in a new post on the studio's blog, Michael Haven, I guess you could just say, broke the news saying, so now we are focused on delivering our most ambitious and biggest game to date, putting every other project on hold, including the development of Storm Divers. He then goes on to state that what the team is working on in secret will define the next evolution of Housemarque, confident in the fact that it will surprise fans. The announcement also doesn't sound like it's too far away, like basically us getting the first look. Haven claims the time is drawing ever closer when our publishing partner will reveal what we are working on. So, look, like, I'm just trying to point this out because, again, nobody's talking about this. And the last time I talked about this was around January. Clearly, he's saying they have a publishing partner. Now, let me ask you guys, and I know you'll get this right, chat. Who has Housemarque been known to work with as a publishing partner? It's been Sony, right? Who paid a visit to Housemarque in mid-2019? Shuhei Yoshida. At that time, he was still in charge of Sony's, he wasn't just relegated to indies, right? And, you also have to, I'm going to connect a couple more dots here, okay? Hold on. Let me, there we go. Sorry about that. I just got super derailed for a second here. But you also put this together where he's saying that they plan to reveal this game with their public... Okay, guys, lock it in. All right, lock it in. He says that they plan to reveal their next game with their publishing partner soon. Now, he said this in January. We just got reports coming out that Sony canceled multiple events that they had planned for earlier this year that were canceled. So let me ask you, did Housemarque ever reveal that game yet? No, they didn't. Lock it in. Telling you, it's going to happen at this event. So Maxwell Q, you're saying, what about Ready at Dawn? We want more studios. Yeah, that's another one, man. That is another one that I am very much interested to see if we end up seeing something from Ready at Dawn, if we end up seeing possibly something that, I don't know, maybe a Order 1886 follow-up. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a partnership with Sony and Ready at Dawn, and I would be shocked if we saw a sequel to the Order 1886, but guys, I played that, and I'm like, dude, I've never played a game that has so much potential in terms of like world building and really fleshing it out. I really hope that we do see a follow-up to the Order 1886. It absolutely deserves it absolutely deserves sorry, it deserves a sequel. I'm getting all distracted here, not by my chat. My cat next to me being weird. Knock it off. All right. So let's continue with because I know I'm just going on and on here. But let's continue. Also, I just want to ask the chat before I move on. Do you think I'm right? Do you think we're going to see this game announced at the PS5 event June 4th? Do you think that I'm I'm connecting the dots here together? True Whittier saying Sega might get bought up or a new Sega system. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you guys. If it's between a new console and them being bought or acquired, I'm not going to lie, I'm more inclined to think that they've been bought, because a new console just doesn't make any sense. What are you going to achieve? I'm I just don't understand. You know what I mean? I don't know. And then announcing a new console like the day before or the day of the PlayStation 5 game showcase. Come on now. Okay, moving on from that, we have Microsoft flexes its backwards compatibility for Xbox Series X with support for all 4 generations and will have thousands of compatible titles at launch, saying that the power of the Xbox Series X will allow those games to be played at their base performance, but in some cases also allow for higher frame rates and resolutions, and they are using tech that allows HDR to automatically be enabled. Also, the quick resume feature works with backwards compatible titles as well. So, what do we think about that? I mean, I saw that this was something that Microsoft was really flexing hard with out on social media. It was at around the same time that Sony announced this big event, and again, it's like, I don't know, man. That's a great thing you're touting and a great thing you're flexing, but to do it at around the same time that Sony announces their event, I'm not saying Microsoft knew. They probably didn't, but unlucky timing on their part. I think that just completely overshadowed that. But either way, I think that that's a great thing. I'm a firm believer in giving credit where credit is due, and Microsoft deserves a lot of credit for what they did with backwards compatibility. I think they're definitely leading the way in that area. And I think that people who really care about backwards compatibility and are also Xbox fans, it's an absolute win-win for them, and they have to be commended for that, and I tip my hat to them. So good job on that, Microsoft, and it's just nice to see that they're continuing that with the Xbox Series X. So moving right along here, I find this one pretty damn interesting, okay? And the timing of it's also interesting. Eddie Who, you're saying, I just want to show my support, man. Appreciate your daily uploads. Well, thank you for that, Eddie. I really do appreciate your support, and I'm glad that you enjoy the daily content. Doing daily content isn't always easy, and frankly, it can become a little bit stale at times. It's just the nature of it, but I try to do my best, and I certainly appreciate those of you who look forward to any of my uploads, but especially the daily, just following it day over day. Really appreciate that, buddy. Thank you. Let me see. So, Hideo Kojima. And I want to chat. I want to know what you think about this, all right? Hideo Kojima recently did an interview and talked a bit about Death Stranding, saying that it was a financial success, and also said that his most recent project that he was working on fell apart. And I think he was quoted, and I don't have the quote in front of me, but I think he was quoted with saying something along the lines of, well, that's the gaming industry for you. I don't know if he was pissed. I'm sure he was pissed off. Now, obviously, it's interesting to acknowledge that Death Stranding was profitable. I'm happy to hear that. I think that it deserves to be. I think it's an underrated game, frankly. I know it's not for everybody, and I'm not saying it should be for everybody, but there's definitely something special there with Death Stranding. It's just not a game you get every day. I really enjoyed my time with it. I did platinum it as well. That's how much I enjoyed it. I will admit, though, it did become a little bit of a grind when you're trying to go for the platinum, but that's always optional. So it was apparently... It was apparently a success, okay? Also, I get it, dude. I get it. You're spamming press the like button, and I know you're going to think that I'm not going to put you on timeout, but I have to, okay? I do appreciate it. Yes, please hit the like button, but come on now, man. I do appreciate you spamming for a good cause, though, but still, no spam. But yeah, Death Stranding was a financial success according to Kojima, but the thing I'm more interested in is what about his latest project that he's saying? He's saying that it fell apart. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. My mind immediately, like literally, immediately goes to that was Silent Hill. I mean, we were hearing multiple reports for some time, especially from this Dust Golem aesthetic gamer dude, that he was working on something Silent Hill related. So I don't know, man. Like, is this the second time Kojima had a Silent Hill project canceled on him? I think it's possible. I hope it's not true. And I guess, I don't know. It just sucks to hear that because I'm like, well, what the hell could he have been working on? You know, that it got canceled. Or if it wasn't Silent Hill, what would it have been, right? Was it another Metal Gear thing, possibly? I doubt that, but I don't know, man. It's just sad to hear that. Like, you know, I feel like Kojima, he's just one of these guys where it's like, you can't cancel a Kojima project. You know, it's Kojima. You let him do his thing, right? He's earned that, I think. MDLG, you're saying the design is leaking on Twitter. It's apparently imposing, grand and impressive in appearance, cooling massively improved but heavier than the Xbox One X. Now, okay, very interesting, MDLG. When you're saying it's leaking on Twitter, are you saying like visuals of it are actually leaking, or are you talking about what we talked about earlier, where it was actually, there's like reports starting to come out that from that Russian outlet that's talking about the design, but hasn't actually, the design itself hasn't actually leaked yet? Because I'm looking on Twitter right now and I'm not seeing anything. What I do see, though, is apparently Jeff Grubb is saying that third-party devs are fawning. I don't know what that word means. I'll have to look that word up. But for anybody who knows what fawning means, are fawning over the PlayStation 5. And he did not hear the same level of praise for the Xbox Series X. Yeah, Jeff Grubb's been revealing a lot of very interesting stuff lately, and one of the things he's been revealing is how fond developers seem to be, how excited they seem to be for the PlayStation 5, and how they're just not saying the same things about the Series X. Also, you're saying I got 1,000 likes on the podcast. Thank you guys so much. That's, in my opinion, that's an incredible feat. Being able to achieve 1,000 likes before the podcast even ends, absolutely amazing. Thank you guys for your support. You have no clue, maybe you do at this point actually, how much that actually helps the podcast out. If you're a fan of the podcast and you want to see it grow, that's literally the easiest call to action I can give you to help me directly grow it. So, MBG, expand your vocabulary, bro. Yeah, dude, that's the thing. Like, I like to think I have a pretty expansive vocabulary, but I'm just like, I heard 2 words today that I don't know. I can assume what fawning means. I'm going to assume fawning basically means they're gushing over it, right? Like they're really excited about it and praising it. Okay, I see somebody mentioning Foxy Twitter. If you're talking about Foxy Games UK, he blocked me for some reason, so I can't check out his Twitter. I don't know if he's saying anything relevant or not, but just to acknowledge that. True Witty, you're saying, I mean praise MBG, they are praising the PS5. Oh, it means praise MBG, they are praising the PS5. Okay. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I understand the general idea of what the word means. I'm just saying, like, I don't think I've ever actually heard that word used. When I see words used that I've just never heard of before, I like to actually look up the actual definition to know exactly what it means. Fawning, displaying exaggerated flattery or affection. Okay, so there we go. That's what that means. So what was the other word I learned about today? I already forgot that quick. But Foxy UK says I blocked him. No, I don't think so. I don't think I blocked him. I only block people that come at me. So there's no reason I would have blocked him. But yeah. Anyway, it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, it's Twitter. It is what it is. Like, I don't really care that much. But let me see here. Will I do an unboxing of the PlayStation 5? I don't know. My big concern is, will I have a PS5 day one? A damn well better, right? If there's anybody who needs to have a PS5 day one, it's me. Am I wrong? I don't mean to sound entitled, but damn. Lewdness. Okay, yeah, lewdness. I already forgot that quick what lewdness means. Anyway. Oh, no, I remember what lewdness means now. We're not going to talk about it here because nothing right now requires that word. So, yeah, okay, so he's saying it's just really broad, like it's heavier, it's towers. Okay. I mean, like, look, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like, I'm not interested in listening to people who, and this isn't a shot at Foxy Games UK. This is just broad for anybody, and it's not even offense against them. Like, talk about what you want to talk about. I'm just saying, for me, I'm not interested in listening to people who do not have positions that, in my opinion, are convincing enough to make me believe that they have inside sources. I mean, I do occasionally, and I like to, it's hard not to pay attention, but it's also hard not to feel that, like, why are you, like, why? Like, Jeff Grubb. I can believe what Jeff Grubb says because he literally works for a gaming outlet and he talks to publishers and developers. And I'm not saying that other people, that you have to work in the industry that way in order to make that happen. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like, I just see a lot of people constantly saying things and acting like they're seeing this. And who knows? Maybe it's true, right? Like, maybe it's true, but I'm just not the type of person. I mean, look, that if I had it, let me just put it to you this way. If I had a source right now, which I'm not going to tell you whether I do or I don't. I'll be honest with you, I don't. But even if I did, okay, if I had a source that I knew for a fact was 100% legit and they were giving me, like, real inside information, and I'm talking, like, big shit, like, if they were telling me, dude, the PS5 is going to be fully backwards compatible, I absolutely would not be saying a damn thing about it. And I know some people aren't going to believe that, but I absolutely would not. You want to know why? Because first of all, I'd be scared shitless to get in trouble, okay? Second of all, I would just feel like that's something that I feel privileged enough to know, but I want, I'm going to let everybody else kind of get it when it comes. You know what I mean? Like, and I just don't want to, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why I'm going to be real with you guys. Like, I've never really pursued trying to be in contact with people who were considered insiders because I'm going to be real with you right now. I like being on the same level as you guys. I know some people don't want to believe that, but I actually like the idea of I want to partake in the leaks and the rumors and kind of, wade for myself, figure out what's true, what's not, let's speculate. Like, that's my favorite thing to do. If I knew everything, I would be a little bit disappointed, man, because I would just feel like, oh, like, well, now I can't make any guesses, now there's nothing to speculate about because I know. And in that way, that's why I've never pursued that. MBG, are you holding out on us? No. People are telling me to go on the Round Table podcast. Absolutely no offense to the Round Table podcast, but what is that podcast? I've never heard of that. And just so you know, I get offers all the time to go on other podcasts, but I don't know, man. I'm just an introvert. I'm kind of antisocial in that way, believe it or not. I don't have much of an interest in going on other podcasts. It's nothing against anybody, absolutely nothing personal. I mean, if I got offered to go on Joe Rogan's podcast, I'd probably say no. I don't know. I like this. I like what we're doing here. I don't know. Let me see. I'm trying to... So actually, really quick though, but I didn't actually finish my final topic here, and then we'll do the Q&A with the chat. We've already kind of started doing that. For those who may have missed it, June's PlayStation Plus games are Call of Duty World at War and Battlefront 2. MBG, hit up King Thrash Gaming. He's a cool guy. He just talks about games. I think I saw him reaching out to me. Again, it's nothing personal to anybody at all. Like, I'm just more comfortable doing my own thing here. Like, I'm not... I know that, I don't know. I know maybe some people look at that as like a buzzkill, but I got to be real and I got to be honest, and I just prefer not to put myself in what would feel to me is a really uncomfortable position. There's a reason why I just like doing my podcast alone, Maybe that makes me weird. I don't know. Maybe I am weird, but I'm okay with that. But I'm not. I'm not, again, I just want to clarify, I'm not trying to hate on anybody or trash talk anybody who's coming out here potentially actually feeding legitimate or made up, what they consider to be hints about the PlayStation 5 or anything about it. But I'm just saying that I just, you always got to be aware of credibility. You know what I mean? The people who are considered the most credible, they usually remain the most credible, and they continue to grow their credibility where it's not really so much a question anymore, such as people like Jason Schreier, people like Jeff Grubb, people, at these other outlets, people who, this is not just somebody saying this, or they're not trying, like, they don't hide the fact, like, it's very clear and it's public facing that they have contacts. Like, there's no question about that. You know what I mean? So, True Witty, you're saying yes, go on the round table. It's a cool show. I don't know, man. I mean, I certainly am very grateful and gracious for anybody who reaches out asking me and requesting me to be on their show or to talk to me. I really do appreciate that. But we're just going to keep doing our own thing here. And that's just the way I'm going to keep it for now. So I'm not saying that'll never change. It might, but I don't know. You're saying not everybody likes podcasts with 8 dudes talking over each other. I mean, dude, I like to listen to my fair share of podcasts, but I have to say that, like, that's kind of been a little bit of the inspiration for me to, like, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this alone because I don't see really anybody else doing it. And in my opinion, it makes it different. Like, it's just a different flow. It's a different feeling. And I'm not bragging or anything. I'm just saying, like, that's why. Because I was like, I listen to all these podcasts, and I've never really listened. I think the closest thing I've gotten to listening to a solo podcast, I think, is probably Sacred Symbols occasionally. I think maybe he did a couple shows, like, alone. And it was just like, I was listening to it, and I'm like, and nothing against Chris Ray-Gun. I like Chris Ray-Gun. I like that podcast. But I'm just saying, like, I was like, wow, listening to just a one-person podcast is actually kind of interesting, right? Like, it just has a different flow to it. So, anyway, final thing I wrote down here, and this is, I guess, kind of relevant, and I'm interested to see what you guys think of this. Let me see. You're saying, MBG, your patience with Death Stranding far outweighs your patience with The Last of Us 2. Why is divisive gameplay more acceptable than the divisive story? Isn't it important to support an artist's vision? You're not wrong, buddy. I do agree 100%. It's always important to support artists and their vision. Their vision should never be compromised, regardless of what the reaction may be. Let people express themselves, because the truth is, The Last of Us Part 2 isn't going to hurt anybody, at least not, like, physically, right? But the reason why the reaction was as intense for me for The Last of Us Part 2 compared to Death Stranding, like, you're asking what's the difference between having a gameplay that's divisive versus a story. In this case, it's mainly, and I've talked about this, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'll just put it to you this way. With a game like Death Stranding, gameplay being divisive, gameplay is more like, if I pick up the controller and I play it, I'll know, I don't like this. Like, I'm not feeling this at all, and I literally don't want to actually do the act of playing this because it doesn't feel good to play physically, like the actual moment-to-moment what I'm doing in the game. To whereas with the story, it's more like, especially with The Last of Us 2, there's characters that are very beloved. They have a place in a lot of gamers' hearts, and there's been history that is established, and it just conjures an emotional attachment that, frankly, I don't know if it's possible to have an emotional attachment to gameplay. I'm sure it is, but what I will say is I don't think that emotional attachment to gameplay will ever reach the same level as emotional attachment that you feel for characters that are created and just the stories that are told for these characters, right? Like, I think about Metal Gear Solid, and I think about how, like, I love that gameplay, and I do feel like a little bit of an emotional attachment to that series. But when I think of that game, I think about the emotional attachment I had with, characters like Snake and, Otacon and the Colonel and other characters as well, obviously, Raiden and whatnot, and just that world and that universe, and how, like, to me, it was like I don't want to say that the story mattered more than the gameplay, but in some cases it kind of does, at least from an emotional standpoint. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully that answers your question there a little bit. But the final thing I have written down here, Take-Two Interactive they've made it clear that they plan to spend a ton of money on marketing sometime between 2023 and 2024, leading to heavy speculation that is when we can expect GTA 6, yes, Merrill as well, GTA 6 will launch. They have since denied that is what it's for. But a lot of people don't believe them. A lot of people think that they basically just gave away the launch window of GTA 6. The last time they announced something like this was actually for the launch. It ended up being the same time that Red Dead Redemption 2 ended up launching. So what do you guys think about that? You think that we're going to end up seeing GTA 6 in 2023, 2024? Some people are saying that's way too long. I don't know. It does feel way too long, but it sounds, I believe it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But, all right, guys, this is the final part of the stream here, where we are going to talk a little bit about whatever. I'm going to interact with the chat because I know that not everybody can super chat or anything like that, and I want to always try my best to. First of all, I appreciate all the super chats for sure, but I always want to make sure to try to give you guys a little bit of time where I can try my best. I can't acknowledge all of you, of course, but try my best to interact a little bit with what you guys are saying. So, Red Dead Redemption 2, the best game ever made. And to some people, yes, it is. So, let me see here. Chat time. Yeah, let's go. Amazon to buy Sega. Oh, that's an interesting one. That sounds possible. That's an interesting one. I haven't seen that one before. The PS5 leaked, but it could be fake. Did it leak? That's like the second person I saw say that. I don't know if I just keep getting worried. Like, wait, did an image of the PS5 leak? So Corey Barlog just tweeted 40 minutes ago. He says, "So frustrated." I'm assuming that doesn't have to do with something gaming related, but for a split second, I thought, did the PlayStation 5 just leak and now everybody's upset that it leaked at Sony? But no, I don't think that has anything to do with the PlayStation leaking. MBG, what did I think of Kingdom Hearts 3? I actually didn't play Kingdom Hearts 3. It's just not really my cup of tea, honestly. I will recommend to try, for anybody who wants to ask me a question, try to type MBG just because it does highlight you a little bit. I mean, obviously, if everybody does it, it'll be no different, but makes it a little bit easier. True Witty, you're saying, is it me? I like MGS 4 more than I liked 5. I want to remaster. Dude, I'm with you there. I did. That's why I had a PS3 for the time I did, to play Metal Gear Solid 4. One of my favorite games of all time. It's not just you, man. It's not just you. Let me see. MBG, I will buy a PS5 and keep the Xbox One for backward compatibility. Yeah, man. Skate 3 through backwards compatibility. That's what I would play. MBG, word on the street is that Sony may not show the PS5, and June 4th will be 100% PS5 games. If true, how do you feel about it? I'd be okay with it. The games matter more than anything. If I had to trade one for the other to see first, I want to see the games. I'm super excited for that. Derek, you're saying the round table is respectful. MBG, no one is yelling over each other. Yeah, I wasn't trying to make it sound like they're yelling over each other. I've never listened to them before. I can't speak to that, but definitely wasn't trying to insinuate that. MBG, it's really big and bulky if it's real. I'm okay with that, dude. I don't care. I mean, I want the console to look as good as it can, obviously, but I really don't care if it's big and bulky. Like, I just want, I don't know, I want the console, and I want it to be, I want it to be functional. MBG is a person who's extremely excited for The Last of Us 2 and is in the Last of Us community. I think people who said crap about you is uncalled for, and I don't think they took the time to understand your opinion. I appreciate that, buddy. Like, and that's the thing is, like, as I said, I know I went in a little bit too hard, but I like to think that people can try to be understanding, right? Like, is that too much to ask for? Well, in today's day and age, it seems like it is, honestly, which is just sad and depressing, but we're not going to go there. What is the possibility of us getting a new Killzone game? I'd say 50-50. We'll talk about that. We'll have a video talking about that. MBG, you should do a poll regarding how long it will take pre-orders to sell out for both consoles. MBG, do you think the PS5 will be hard to get if you don't reserve it? Yes. Have you played The Witcher 3? I have not. I probably should. You think Bloodborne 2 will show up? No. What are your... I'm losing track, guys. I'm sorry. Am I streaming The Last of Us Part 2? That I'm unsure of. I might stream maybe like the first hour or two. Foxy Games UK did say that we'll see a studio acquisition back in January, and we'll see that soon. Yeah, that didn't pan out well. LOL. We might still. He did. Actually, I think he responded to me. I said in a video, I highlighted that he said that. I said I think it might have been Housemarque at that time. And he said, oh, good eye. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe. Will we get a Bloodborne 2 teaser? No. Will storefronts restrict their employees from buying consoles and preserving stock for consumers? Probably. I want to say yeah. Chris B, seems weird. It was clear that the PS4 Backwards compatibility mode supports all PS4 games. 100% boost mode is what needs to be tested. Yeah, I think they cleared that up, right? Like, I think they did, but it's still a little bit confusing, right? Like, we just need to know. They need to just flat out say, you know? And maybe they did. I don't know, man. It's a little bit confusing. I'm not going to lie. Freeze Vamp, you're saying your message has been skipped. Yeah, I apologize for that, buddy. I can't, I'll try again. I try my best. I can't promise I can get your message every time. Ivan, you're saying you have overseen my super chat. PS5 1440p 144 hertz question mark. Actually, I did read that super chat. Ivan. So if you go back and watch this afterwards, you'll see I acknowledge that. But I did say I do think we will see the PlayStation 5 will support. I think it could support that. I think it's maybe more likely to support 1440p 120 hertz or 120 frames per second. We did hear that Gran Turismo 7 may end up possibly going up to 240, but yeah, I think we will see that. Why buying an Xbox is on anyone's mind when xCloud is available? I don't know. How many new IPs do you think are coming out? I think we'll see at least one or two. I think one, bare minimum. Do I think we're getting a new Ratchet & Clank game on launch? Yes. To that, I say yes. Do you like the V-shaped PS5 dev kit? I don't mind it. I'm not going to lie. I don't mind it. NBG, love you, bro. You said the PS5 looks like a square and round edges, right? Yeah, that's what I read. That's what the report is saying. Wait, what's this one? MBG, were you the teacher's pet? Did you bring an apple for the teachers every day? Absolutely not. I was not good in school. I learned my lesson eventually, though. Almost a 2.5 hour stream. Oh, yeah, we just passed the 2.5 hour mark, so we'll go a little bit longer, guys. But, yeah, it's getting kind of long here. Spider-Man 2, maybe? Maybe. I'm very worried about the PS5's price because of the pandemic and fear of losing jobs could hinder potential customers. Yeah, there's no doubt that will play some role and have some role and have some effect. No doubt about that. Can't avoid that. Ryan Thomas, you're saying Foxy Games has just reported that the final PlayStation 5 design has actually been in plain sight. A fan-rendered one is the design, but he doesn't say which one. All right, I guess. I mean, I don't know what we're supposed to take from that. Like, I guess we could go look at fan-rendered designs, but it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't, like, we're gonna see it. Like, either leak it or don't. You know what I'm saying? That's all. That's what I'm trying to say. Leak it or don't. I wouldn't leak it though. Let the surprise be saved. Also, I'm not gonna say that. Are you into Dark Souls games? Absolutely. One of my all-time favorite gaming franchises and series. I love Dark Souls. Sony already said the price won't affect the pandemic. Oh yeah, by the way, I know I may have read that wrong. I don't I didn't mean that the price, like the pandemic, I don't think is going to affect the soaring of the price going higher. I meant in like how people are going to be able to, like how many people are going to be able to afford one if it's like $500. It won't be more than $500. So that's what I meant. What's the one thing you're looking forward to with the PS5? Games. What about the PSP? I don't know. What about it? Hope you can see Metal Gear Solid 2. Probably not. I'd love to see that though. You just want Demon's Souls or Elden Ring? Same here, buddy. I want both. A new IP could be very likely. Yeah, I think they'll show at least one new IP or at least tease it, right? True Witty, I want a Resistance so much reboot or remaster. I think that's a possibility. I think it's possible. Do you think they'll announce anything for Horizon Zero Dawn 2? 100%, yes. Are you excited for Godfall? Actually, I am. I think Godfall looks pretty decent. It's not my most anticipated game, but I'm liking what I'm seeing of it so far and hearing. MBG, which is your favorite game? Hard to say right now, buddy. You love the bluish silver console or just sky blue? MBG, the delivery of your content is awesome, always trying to be fair and subjective with bias towards PlayStation, which is great, but always fair criticism and praise whenever you do. Well, thanks, buddy. I'm glad you see it that way. I try my best, and I know that not everybody see that. MBG, what is your age? I don't think that's relevant. Resident Evil 8. I hope we see Resident Evil 8. PS5 gang, let's go. Let's see. Oh, talking about backwards compatibility with the PSP games on PS5. I don't know. That would be absolutely insane. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But hey, you never know. When do I think we'll see the damn box? I think we'll see it June 4th. Will The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima be putting the final nails in Xbox's coffin this generation? Why do you think Xbox still have blind loyalty to Xbox? I do think it is this final nail in the coffins for this generation, for sure, in the coffin. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I know it's, a lot of people look at it as blind loyalty. I really just think it's Xbox enthusiasts that genuinely just want to see Xbox do better. I mean, there's no doubt that's where it stems from, but I think they're also, they've proven that they're willing to stick with Xbox in the worst of times, which could be seen as a good thing, but at the same time, it's hard to expect. I don't know, it just seems like Microsoft isn't getting the message sometimes. Not all the times, but sometimes, that's all. Do you think they needed a Ratchet and Clank or Crash Bandicoot as a launch title to offset the inaccessible how inaccessible Demon's Souls is? I'm going to be honest with you. You're probably going to see both. Expect to see Crash Bandicoot. Expect to see Ratchet and Clank. I could be wrong. I'm not saying this as definitive or as if somebody told me this. That's what I'm expecting. Do you think they'll show the design a day before to build hype? They could. Maybe they'll be like, yo, Sega designed our console. No, that's not going to happen. But am I an actor? No, I am not. Your favorite current game? It's a tie between, I don't know, I want to say Bloodborne comes to mind. Do you think that the PS5 could release early since there could be a second big lockdown in winter, and what's the point of releasing a console in lockdown when the shops are closed? I don't know, man. To be honest, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in the world right now that there's a lot of unpredictability. Masahiro Ito has been tweeting Silent Hill drawings. Also, he retweeted the PS5 event. Yep, I'm telling you, lock it in. We're going to see Silent Hill. We're going to see Silent Hill there, or at least a tease of it. When Godfall releases, you should team up with subs. Maybe one day. We'll do something like that. But MBG is really George Clooney. First of all, I don't think I sound like George Clooney, and I don't look anything like George Clooney either, so you're saying say your name, God Gamer. There you go, God Gamer. I'm not doing any Morty voices. That's the MBG Morty voice is reserved occasionally, very occasionally, for members only live streams. So, yeah. All right, guys, but that is pretty much going to do it for this episode of the podcast. We're about to hit the 2 hour and 40-minute mark, so I want to thank everybody for showing up and showing your continued support. I have to say that your support has just been absolutely amazing. We've grown this podcast to, in my opinion, be one of the best podcasts that's out there right now, one of the best gaming podcasts anyway, and I hope that it can continue to grow. And obviously, I couldn't do this without you, especially considering that this is a one-man podcast. You guys are awesome, and you do a fantastic job. But we have Ryan Thomas here before we go saying, rumors are that Sega is rebranding the Xbox Series X in Japan. Microsoft is hoping they can sell better in Japan this generation, hence why they showed Yakuza. Oh, man, I got to tell you, man, that is a more interesting rumor and plausible. That would be something. That would be something else if that happens. So thanks for bringing that to my attention, Ryan. And we do have a new member before we end this here, NES Ninja Skills. Thank you so much for joining and going above and beyond here to show your support. So thank you for that. Look forward to your exclusive perks. That goes for all my members. I want to thank my mods for those who have been here for today's podcast. Thank you for doing a good job modding and keeping up with that. And I guess I also just want to say before we go, it's crazy things going on in the world right now, so make sure you stay safe, take care of each other, take care of yourself, do the best you can, always try to do the right thing, all that stuff, because, there's just so much stuff that's going on. It's unpredictable, man. It's insanity, and I want to thank you guys for taking time to hang out with me here and kind of help me, and hopefully I'm helping you as well, disconnect from all the craziness that is going on in the world right now. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting worse with these outros every time. I just keep going on and on and on. But that's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much. Make sure you hit the like button on your way out. But until next time, guys, take care.